in senior management roles. He previously served as a Chief Executive Officer of ONGC Foundation, which provides excellence in philanthropy sector through its programs in education, health, skill development, and livelihood. He is currently the sous Sherpa of C20 India. Colonel Ajay Kotiala ji, Kirti Chakra, Shaurya Chakra, Vishisht Seva Medal retired, is a former Indian Army officer. He is also an explorer, a philanthropist. He was the principal of Nehru Institute of Mountaineering located in Uttarakhand. He was the director of Nehru Institute of Mountaineering in Uttarkashi when the institute was tasked with the rescuing and rehabilitating the Kedarnath temple after it was destroyed by the flash floods in 2013. His non-profit organization, Youth Foundation, prepares young boys and girls from Uttarakhand to join Indian Army. In 2016, he received Uttarakhand Ratna Award for his contribution in uplifting and employing Uttarakhand youths. Professor Ram Kumar Kamkadi ji, presently the director at IIM Raipur, has a vast career in corporate as well as in academia. His career as a corporate technocrat, he had his career as a corporate technocrat before transitioning into academia and his academic area focuses on finance performance strategy. He earned his PhD from IIM Calcutta in finance area. He taught at XLRI Jamshedpur at Labasna, Mussoorie. Later, he moved into leadership domain to explore socially and impactful initiatives aimed at public administration, including serving as a director at the Registered Society, the Government of India's National Center for Leadership Development and Competency Assessment. He has written numerous books and various publications ranging from Cambridge to Sage. Major General Manoj Bindal is a former executive director of the National Institute of Disaster Management, Government of India, with 36 years of experience in strategic management, planning, policy, and implementation. He was the key policy maker for UN peacekeeping deployment, conceptualizing the conduct of UN peacekeepers in India and abroad. I welcome you all for this prestigious work. And thank you, sir. And I request Abhishek ji for moderating this session.
Thank you, ma'am. Before that, I request Shyam ji to felicitate Kiran ji. Shyam ji, request you again to felicitate and welcome Major General Manoj ji. Also want to request Rakesh ji to please felicitate Dr. Ram ji. Rakesh ji, please felicitate and welcome Colonel Ajay ji. I request you, Abhishek ji, to please moderate the panel discussion. Yeah. Abhishek ji is Executive Director of Seva International, and he is leading the organization and all of us. So I thank you.
Before Abhishek starts, हमारा घड़ी का कुछ जमा नहीं है, घड़ी अपने हिसाब से चल रही है, हम अपने हिसाब से चल रहे हैं. Bear with us. Great time.
So namaste everyone. श्याम जी ने एक विषय रख दिया मुझे टाइम को लेके. दो तीन चीजें before we start. ever since I've been asked to moderate this session, we'll keep it bilingual, हिंदी अंग्रेजी दोनों भाषा में बात करेंगे. दूसरा समय कम है तो we'll try to stick to the point, तो आप सभी का cooperation चाहिए. And third, ये esteemed panel यहाँ बैठी है. मेरे पास एक बहुत ही curious बच्चे की तरह की समझ है. So I'll try to be that curious child in this esteemed panel. Will ask questions based on his understanding or maybe lack of understanding. Either way. So quickly I'll set the context of this session. As you know, as Philanthropy has briefed, इस सत्र का नाम Role of Global Civil Society in Tackling Disasters है. Now, if you understand, global and civil दोनों शब्द एक साथ आना खुद में ही एक विडंबना है, एक तरीके का विरोधाभास है. Civil society by very root, by very definition is a very localized concept. जहाँ एक प्रकार की समस्या, एक प्रकार की आवश्यकता है, एक प्रकार की कल्चर, एक प्रकार की समझ, एक प्रकार की कैपेसिटीज पे एक सिविल सोसाइटी का निर्माण होता है. But we have tried to see how global civil society is coming together. So the underlying theme of this whole chopal is to re-emphasize the concept जब हम कहते हैं वसुधैव कुटुंबकम. The whole Vasudha is a family, and that is where the connotation of global civil society comes in picture. Why disaster? Because climate, cooperation, and community. These three things. Since this is a platform of C20, let me get to another connotation of C3, which is climate, cooperation, and community. इन तीन चीजों का संयोग, इन तीन चीजों की समन्वय आवश्यक है किसी भी डिजास्टर को डील करने के लिए. So that's the basic premise. And as our esteemed panelists have been introduced, they bring huge experience in terms of planning, management, rehabilitation, response, working with civil society. So I need not get into that. Briefly, we'll touch on the structure. We'll have opening remarks from each of our panelists, starting with the chair, Major General Bindal ji. Followed by that, we'll have some moderated questions, some of the questions that I have tried to collate based on our discussions that could justify the topic. And then we will open it up for the audience or the group questioning. So these are three broader aspects on which we have tried to divide this whole session. Dr. Ram Kakani ji, after that, will give us his keynote address, and towards the end, after the group discussion, our chair will summarize the session. So that's the basic premise. With this, I will invite our chair, Major General Manoj Gindal ji, to share his opening remarks. Thank you.
Jai Hind to everyone. It's a great honor to be here to be discussing the role of a civil society organization during disasters, before disasters, and after disasters. It's a great change that has taken place. I've been part of many disasters in my early life. And earlier, we have always seen that NGOs, civil society organizations have been seen as a competitor by the government. Everywhere you go to a district, they seem to be named to but slowly, this concept is changing, and that change is due to the fact that the civil society organization, the NGOs, and this community-based organizations are changing, helping the government change its image. In I'll tell you about 2001 earthquake. I was there. My own house had come down. Material we were saved. And that time, a lot of organizations came. I'm sorry, that time I didn't know C20 International was there. But I must have met them at that point of time because I was looking after a lot of whole Bhuj and Anjar area at that time. So we had problem of plenty. Every NGO was bringing what they thought was required. To the extent that a stage came when the clothes donated by various people of the country were being dumped on the roadside for people to pick up because there were no takers. This thing happened on 26th January. People thought it's very cold out there, but within 5 days, which became hot. So many blankets came and woolen clothes came, now became a waste. It took time for the government agencies to get their act together. I'm just giving you small snippets of how the things have changed. In 2014 earthquake, I was looking after the complete rescue relief operations in Srinagar. That time, Dr. Jitendra was there, we used to sit together, he was that time Minister of State for Home Affairs. And we devised a strategy that time based on my experience of earthquake. That no, any NGO or civil society organization when it comes and offers to help, we will tell them where to go and what they can help based on their strength. And that way we could coordinate that the problem of plenty was removed, the scarcity of certain essential commodities was removed just by this coordination. Now comes COVID-19. That time I was in Ministry of Home Affairs as Executive Director, and all those orders that you used to see, lockdown orders, I was one of the architect of making those orders that time. I was also looking at many other things. So we called for a meeting of the NGOs, civil society organizations in NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority. I still remember the date was, I think, 18th of April or something. Immediately after that lockdown finished. And straight away, every NGO was asked, what is your strength, where you can help. And an interagency support group was made. As a result, the work done by the NGOs was phenomenal. The government could achieve what we say success stories, what Chaturvedi was talking about, was not possible without the help of non-governmental organizations in whatever capacity. So there is a lot of scope. There is a lot of scope where we can do good work and we can do work which matters. Today, donor-driven agenda is slowly getting faded away, and that's a very big confidence-building measure when it comes to a government organization. Today, orders have been passed. In fact, in 2010, National Disaster Management Authority had passed a guideline of how the NGOs, CSOs, CBOs, and the corporate sector will work in disaster situations. And it has given a number of guidelines, which I think we will see later. But I'll give you some points of that now and later during the question answer session. In that, it is given clearly that all the NGOs and the CSOs have to collaborate with the district authorities. Because in our national institutional framework for disaster management, which was enacted in 2005 by DM Act 2005, it talks about that the lowest government authority where disaster management authority will be established will be at a district headquarters, which will be district collector, district magistrate, or a revenue officer. And hence, that is the focal point for everyone who works with. All plans have to be made at that level. Every district is distinct. Every state is distinct. Every place there will be different requirements. So one size fits all is not the issue. Everything will have to be contextualized to that particular demography. Like disaster management plans are being made at district level. That is where the CSOs and NGOs have to make sure that the inter-agency action group that is supposed to be made at every district level by order of the government is put in place. And we are part of that. Whenever they call for any, when they issue any letter or any notice or they call for a meeting, we are there to support them. That I think is the first place where civil society organizations have to look at, because that is a missing link today, that neither the district authorities are aware who are working in my area. It's a sporadic news. Okay, somewhere someone is working, someone knows about it, so he tells that person, and that organization is called. That is not the correct way. We have to find a seat at the table, and that is possible for district authority of course. Lot of coalitions have come about now, right, within within India also, who are already finding a seat in the government organization, like NPDRR, which just happened 2 days back. There are 2 such organizations which are there as per the national government gazette, Sphere India and Seeds International. So our aim should be also to find a place there through our good work, continuous work, and consistent results that we show. So to start with, I will only talk about this. There are many challenges and opportunities that are there, but I've just touched upon how we can ensure that we are part of the institutional mechanism of the country, and then only we will be able to expand ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Bindan sir. I think the points that you mentioned, including need of civil societies getting a seat at the district level is important. As per NPDPR, मैं also वही कुछ पढ़ रहा था when I was preparing for this. And कुछ keywords बहुत important थे. What defines the NPDPR? It talks about this is supposed to provide an enabling environment for developing a culture to facilitate integration of disaster management with development sector. So this aspect of integrating disaster management with development is something we will all take back. And when we talk about integrating disaster management with development, I believe Colonel Kotial, you are a person who has manifested it, and I know it very closely because I have worked in Kedarnath region. And post-disaster development, infrastructure building a whole new place in such a ecologically challenged situation is something that I'm personally witness of. So I'd like to have your opening remarks and then we will see. We can use the same mic.
आपने सबसे पहले जो बोला है मेरे को ना वो सुन के बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है कि केदारनाथ में विपरीत परिस्थिति में 12,500 फीट की ऊंचाई पे जब टेम्परेचर -40 डिग्री पे चले जाता है, जब खाली 6 महीने वहाँ पे इंसान रहता है और 6 महीने उसके बाद कपाट बंद हो जाते हैं तो सब नीचे शिफ्ट हो जाते हैं। तो आपने कहा कि आपने ना उस विपरीत परिस्थिति में काम करा है, वो तो आप देख रहे हैं, लेकिन मेरे को तो हकीकत पता है क्या है? आज दिल्ली में एक बिल्डिंग बनाना इतना मुश्किल इसलिए है क्योंकि जनता इतनी सारी आपके पीछे पड़ जाती है, ठेकेदारी प्रथा इतने पीछे पड़ जाती है, सरकारी प्रथा इतने पीछे पड़ जाती है कि काम करना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है। मेरी तो किस्मत देखो कितनी अच्छी, एक तो केदारनाथ में काम करने का मौका मिला और उस जगह कोई जाने को तैयार ही नहीं था, ना जनता थी ना कुछ थी, तो कितना आसान हो जाता है काम करना। ये ना बड़े इत्तेफाक की बात है। आज की सुबह की श्याम सर का नाम हमेशा सुना था, मेरे पिताजी बहुत अच्छे इनके वो हैं और इनको वैसे भी मैं जानता हूँ। तो मेरे को जब कॉल आई ना, आप ही ने कॉल करी थी कि करण साहब ये एक प्रोग्राम है, आप इसमें आएंगे, तो मैंने कहा बिल्कुल, अगर डिजास्टर से रिलेटेड तो आऊंगा। लेकिन वो इन्विटेशन चिट्ठी पता किसकी साइन करेगी? खुद श्याम सर की। क्या किस्मत थी मेरी आने की यहाँ पे। और जब आया तो मैंने 1 घंटे लेट हो गया, एक फौजी की तरह मैंने सीधा फोन करा, मैंने कहा भाई साहब आपको कि मैं लेट हो रहा हूँ। कहते हैं कोई बात नहीं, आ जाइए। यहाँ देखिए मेरी किस्मत कितनी अच्छी, प्रोग्राम ही लेट चल रहा है, आप कह रहे हैं लेट चल रहा है, ये तो बहुत अच्छा है। सभी कुछ जेएनयू में घूमता हूँ अंदर, उत्तराखंड का रहने वाला हूँ, तो उत्तराखंड का एक लड़का मेरे को मिलता है, कहता कोटियाल सर आप तो पहली बार जेएनयू में आए होंगे। मैंने कहा हाँ, पहली बार जेएनयू में आने का मौका मिल रहा है, पहली बार सेवा इंटरनेशनल का प्रोग्राम में शामिल होने का मौका मिल रहा है, और वो भी देखो क्या किस्मत है, प्रोग्राम का इवेंट क्या है। तो अभी ना ऐसी बैठ के हम सब सुन रहे थे, सब बातें ना, तो सुनील जी के साथ बैठा था मैं, तो ऐसी बात हो रही थी चाय के बीच में कि क्या फर्क होता है। एक फौजी हूँ, जिंदगी भर मेरे को ऑपरेशन, ये मतलब बहुतों को नहीं पता है, बढ़ावे के लिए नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, लेकिन मेरी किस्मत देखो कि भारतीय सेना ने मेरे को 2 बार माउंट एवरेस्ट भी भेजा है के। तो वो सब जो मेरे एक्सपीरियंस थे वो जिंदगी भर देखे हैं मैंने। लेकिन क्या होता है, हम अपना एक प्लान बना लेते हैं कि अगर केदारनाथ में डिजास्टर आएगा, अगर अर्थक्वेक आएगा, अगर फ्लड आएंगे ब्रह्मपुत्र में, अगर जंगल में आग लग जाएगी, तो ये पैटर्न है, ये टेम्पलेट है, इसको फॉलो करो। लेकिन उसी पैटर्न को जब इम्प्रूव करने की बात आती है ना, तो हम अपनी सोच में अटक जाते हैं, क्योंकि हमारी इतनी ही सोच है और बड़ी ताकतवर सोच है, क्योंकि फौज एक तरीके से चलती है। लेकिन उसी सोच को अगर सिविल समाज देखता है और उसके बाद में उसको इम्प्रूवमेंट करने की कोशिश करता है, तब बनता है वाकई में डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट प्लान इफेक्टिव जिसे बोलेंगे। और ये जो किताब है ये ना उस चीज का बहुत बड़ा उदाहरण है, जो कि सिविल समाज में देख करके कि कैसे ये चीजें होनी चाहिए और अपने इनपुट दी गई है। बहुत लंबा नहीं, थोड़ी सी चीजें शेयर करूंगा। ये 2013 की बात है, क्योंकि केदारनाथ का नाम आया। मैं अपनी पलटन कमांड करके उत्तरकाशी पोस्टिंग किया अप्रैल 2013 में, और अचानक ना डिजास्टर आ गया, केदारनाथ डिजास्टर। ये होना नहीं चाहिए, लेकिन क्योंकि डिजास्टर आया तो हमारा भी रोल था, हम गए रेस्क्यू के लिए, रेस्क्यू करा हमने। उसके बाद में हमको बोला गया, जब बाकी एजेंसी थोड़ी सी कतरा रही थी कि आप नॉन टेक्निकल है लेकिन रिकंस्ट्रक्शन देखिए, तो 3 साल में केदारनाथ प्रॉपर में टेंट में रहा और रिकंस्ट्रक्शन करा। शेयर क्या करना चाहता हूँ, रिकंस्ट्रक्शन मुश्किल नहीं था, रेस्क्यू मुश्किल नहीं था, लेकिन और आसान कैसे हो गया। एक बार क्या हुआ केदारनाथ में, जब डिजास्टर के बाद में एक ना सरकारी कर्मचारी एक टूटे हुए पुल को क्रॉस कर रहे थे, तो अचानक उनका ना पैर फिसला, पुल भी थे लकड़ी के लॉग, और वो फिसले मंदाकिनी नदी में गिरे, और नदी इतनी तेज है कि उसके बाद उनकी बॉडी नहीं मिली। अब क्योंकि सरकारी कर्मचारी थे तो उनके परिवार का प्रेशर था कि कम से कम प्रॉपर तरीके से एक बार ढूंढने की तो कोशिश करो। अब मैं एनआईएम का प्रिंसिपल था, अगर एनआईए में एक बार रेस्क्यू की कार्रवाई कर देती, क्योंकि हम ट्रेंड है उसके लिए, तो लगता है कि सीरियसली काम करा गया। तो मैंने कहा ठीक है, हम एक टीम तो भेज देते हैं, हमें भी पता था मिलना बहुत मुश्किल है अब इस कंडीशन में बॉडी का। जब नदी इतनी तेज है कि पत्थर रात को वहां पे नदी में जो आपस में टकराते हैं तो चिंगारी की आवाज दिखती है, उस स्पीड से बह रही थी उस टाइम पे नदी। तो हमने ना सिविलियन से पूछा कैसे करना चाहिए, कहते सर मुश्किल क्या है, ये साहब इस जगह से नदी में गिरे, उसके बाद पानी के बहाव से आगे हो गए, कहीं पत्थर से टकराए, कहीं इनकी बॉडी पड़ी होगी, लेकिन ढूंढो कैसे। उन्होंने क्या करा, हमसे बोला कि 3 पुतले बनाओ। हमने लकड़ी के ऊपर से कपड़े बांध के उन सांप के साइज के 3 पुतले बनाए, लाल रंग का कपड़ा लगाया उसमें, और जिस जगह से वो फिसले थे वहां से ना पहला पुतला फेंका, आधे घंटे के बाद दूसरा पुतला फेंका, उसके आधे घंटे के बाद तीसरा पुतला फेंका, तीनों पुतले फेंक गए। अब उसके पीछे हमारी टीम चली, तो पुतलों जो थे उस 3 पुतलों में से हमें एक पुतला तो पूरा जिंदा मिला, मतलब पेट कहीं टकरा हुआ 2 किलोमीटर नीचे, एक पुतला मिला ही नहीं, एक पुतला टूटा फूटा मिला। लेकिन जो लोगों की सोच थी वो ये थी कि जहाँ पुतला टकराएगा पॉसिबिलिटी है वहीं पे कहीं बॉडी भी रही होगी, टकरा के गई होगी। हमें उन इंजीनियर साहब की बॉडी तो नहीं मिली, लेकिन हमें वहां पे 55 और लोगों की लाशें पड़ी हुई मिली, जो किसी को पता ही नहीं था। लोकल की सोच बता रहा हूँ मैं। अब उसके बाद में रेस्क्यू हो गया केदारनाथ का, फिर हमको बोला गया कि यात्रा 5 साल के लिए रोक दी जाए ताकि बेसिक रिसोर्सेज तैयार हो जाए, तब यात्रा शुरू करी जाएगी। 17 किलोमीटर पैदल रास्ता है, 22 किलोमीटर है बल्कि। तो मेरे को फिर उस टाइम पे सरकार ने पता नहीं क्या सोच करके बोला कि हम लोग इंसान हैं, कोशिश तो करते हैं, कहीं ना कहीं लोगों की भावना है, उन्होंने तो जाना है केदारनाथ, तो क्यों ना कोशिश करी जाए। तो क्या आप कोशिश करने के लिए तैयार हैं? तो मेरे साथ तो जो लड़के थे नए नए, वो कहते सर मजा आ गया, अब हम चलने शुरू हुए केदारनाथ में। मुश्किलों की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन उन चीजों की बात कर रहा हूँ जो ना युवा, जो सिविल समाज जो आपको सपोर्ट करता है। जैसे दल चतुर्वेदी ने इससे पहले बोला था कि हम 100 चीजों की तैयारी करते हैं डिजास्टर में, लेकिन 101 भी होती है। हमारे साथ भी ना 101 की हुई, बड़ा अच्छा चल रहा है। सब कह रहे हैं बहुत मुश्किल है, वहाँ के गाँव वाले कह रहे हैं तुम क्यों जा रहे हो ऊपर, टाइम वेस्ट कर रहे हो, लेकिन हम चले जा रहे हैं और काम भी बड़े तरीके से हो रहा। लेकिन क्या हुई अचानक, क्योंकि हाँ तो केदारनाथ तो इतनी बड़ी आपदा आई, अब कोई लड़के ना ऊपर जा रहे हैं जंगल में लकड़ी लेने के लिए, कहीं पे हम खोद रहे हैं तो कभी ना किसी बच्चे की खोपड़ी मिल जा रही है, कभी कहीं खच्चर मिल रहे हैं मरे हुए, कहीं 5-5, 6-6 डेड बॉडी एक साथ पड़ी है, मतलब वो कंडीशन थी वहां पे। तो उसमें एक फीलिंग आती है वो कि भूतों की फीलिंग, और हमारे यहाँ हमको आती है, और पहाड़ में ऐसे हालत में और ज्यादा आती है। अब वही मंदाकिनी नदी जो बड़ी पावन नदी है, लेकिन उस टाइम पे तो उसकी आवाज ऐसे लगती थी गड़गड़ गड़गड़, क्योंकि आता आ रही थी वहां पे। वही वहां पे जब बादल के बीच में ना हम चांद देखते हैं तो सब प्रणाम करते हैं, लेकिन उस टाइम लगता अरे अब तो पता नहीं कितने बड़े बड़े ओले गिरने वाले हैं। फिर हवा बड़ी अजीब चल रही है, सारा केदारनाथ का जो घाटी है उसमें एक भी घर बचा हुआ नहीं है, और ऊपर से दिन भर बॉडी देखिए। तो टेंट लगा हुआ है, टेंट में 10 लोग हैं, रात को सो रहे हैं। अचानक किसी को ना रात को बाहर जाने की इच्छा होती है, वो बाहर निकला, उस माहौल में वो देखता है नदी के पास एक झाड़ी, अब वो झाड़ी को देख रहा है बड़े ध्यान से। थोड़ी देर में ना उसे लगता है झाड़ी का सर बन गया है, फिर झाड़ी के हाथ बन गए, फिर वो झाड़ी फूटनी शुरू हो गई, और फिर वो फूट करके ना वो आदमी की तरफ पानी शुरू हो गई। ये बड़ी प्रैक्टिकल है, फौज में बॉर्डर्स में भी हम लोग ये कई चीजें देखते हैं, हमारे समाज में होता है। तो आदमी क्या करता है, डर के भागता है, टेंट के अंदर आ जाता है, दुबका हुआ है, इंतजार कर रहा है, भूत बाहर मेरा, मैं बाहर निकलूंगा तो मेरे को खा जाएगा। सुबह सुबह वो आदमी जिसने 5 दिन मेहनत करी है, अपनी पैसे छोड़ता है, उठाता है बोरी और भाग जाता है। तो बोल रहा हूँ कि 100 दिनों की तो हमने तैयारी कर रखी थी, लेकिन भूत की तैयारी नहीं कर रखी थी। अब वो भूत की कहानी नहीं शुरू हो गई। फिर लोकल सामने आए, कहते सर कोई बात नहीं, एक काम करते हैं, केदार घाटी है, शिव जी की घाटी है, ऐसा करते हैं फैंसी ड्रेस कंपटीशन करते हैं। फैंसी ड्रेस कंपटीशन क्या, शिव जी की बारात। अब शिव जी की बारात में तो सबसे खतरनाक भूत थे, हम सबको पता है, मतलब उनसे खतरनाक कोई थे ही नहीं। तो 3 टीमें बनाई गई, मेरे साथ जो लड़के थे वहां पे 1000 लड़के थे करीब, नेपाल के गोरखे थे, हिमाचल के गोरखे थे और उत्तराखंड के लड़के थे, गढ़वाल गांव के। तो 3 टीमों में नेपाल की टीम, हिमाचल के गोरखे और इनकी फैंसी ड्रेस कंपटीशन में थीम थी शिव जी की बारात। तो वो भूत बन के आए और वो ऐसे खतरनाक भूत बन के आए जैसे शोले पिक्चर में नहीं, सांबा घूम रहा है, वैसा इलाका था पूरा टूटा हुआ, उसमें मशाले जला रखी थी, लाइट तो होती नहीं थी ना, कोई कम्युनिकेशन था। उसी में एक जजिंग टीम भी बैठ रही है, पैनल टीम। पहली टीम आई, भूत बन के चली गई, दूसरी टीम आई, वो भी हुआ करा चली गई, तीसरी टीम आई, चली गई। तो फर्स्ट टीम को हमने दिए 10,000 रुपए, दूसरी टीम को दिए 9,999 रुपए, तीसरी टीम को दिए 9,998 रुपए। लेकिन उसका फर्क ये हो गया कि ये लड़के कितने खतरनाक भूत बन के आए थे। अगले दिन से अगर किसी को भूत दिखा भी होगा ना, तो कह रहा हेलो यार, तू यहाँ का घूम रहा है, अगर भूत तो दूसरा होता चल बात तो नाक की घाटी में, अब हम लोग टीम आ रहे हैं। तो वैसे वाली कहानी सुन करके अब चीजें बढ़ती गई, काम चलता गया आगे। कहीं थोड़ा सा एक किसी ने और दिमाग लगाया, कई बार ना ऐसी कंडीशन में भावनाओं को नहीं देखा जाता है, क्योंकि आप काम करना है। तो ना एक छोटे बच्चे की खोपड़ी के वीडियो लेकर के आ गया। मैं था प्रिंसिपल एनआईएम, फौज में कमांडिंग ऑफिसर को टाइगर बोलते हैं। तो एक छोटा सा टेंट था, उसके बाहर लिखा होता था टाइगर डेन, ये सीओ साहब की वो है। उन्होंने क्या करा, खोपड़ी उठाई, हमारे तकिए के बगल में रखी और सबको बोलना शुरू करा। हम सब ने मिलकर के इस तरीके से केदारनाथ में मेहनत करनी है कि अगर दोबारा कितनी भी बड़ी आपदा है, हम ऐसा केदारनाथ बनाएंगे कि एक छोटे के बच्चे की खोपड़ी भी यहाँ पे दोबारा से ना दिखाई दे। ये हम प्रण लेते हैं, इसलिए सर आपके बगल में रखते हैं। ऐसे माहौल को देख करके हमने ना समझना शुरू करा कि बाकी में कैसे ऊपर को जाते हैं। अब शुरू में जब ये काम हमको मिला था, तो हमको खतरा एक ही चीज का था कि सरकारी डिपार्टमेंट जो है वो कह रहे हैं कि यात्रा तो 5 साल के बाद में शुरू होगी। इसका मतलब वो लोग हमको भी रोकेंगे कि अगर कोई और करने की कोशिश करता तो कह रहे तू कैसे हमसे ज्यादा ताकत है। तो लोकल लड़का भूपेंद्र, जिसके पिताजी केदारनाथ में उसी के सामने नदी में बहे थे, वहीं पे गाँव है चौमासी, उसको मैंने बोला यार भूपेंद्र हम जाएंगे तो कैसे करेंगे। उन्हीं को मैं इकट्ठा कर रहा था ऐसे लड़के को, कह रहा सर मैं भी चलूंगा सर। तो हमने एक हेलीकॉप्टर की रेकी मांगी। केदारनाथ में उस टाइम पे मार्च में कोई 10 फीट की करीब बर्फ थी, हेलीकॉप्टर लैंड नहीं कर सकता था। हमने कहा लेकिन फिर भी आप हमें ऊपर भेजिए। ऊपर गए बर्फ में, क्योंकि फौजी हूँ और ये मेरे ऑपरेशन सारे, जैसे बोला कीर्ति चक्र और इधर के मेरे सारे ऑपरेशन ही ऐसे रहे, तो मेरे को पता था बर्फ में ना लैंड करना भी मुश्किल है। ऐसे 8-9 फीट से छलांग मारी पहली टीम ने और थोड़ा हेलीपैड बीट करा। जब तक मेरी बारी आई तो हेलीकॉप्टर ना लैंड कर रहा था। अब वहां से हम 2 दिन में पैदल आए केदारनाथ से, कोई रेकी नहीं, कोई सड़क का अनुमान लगाना कुछ मुश्किल था क्योंकि ऊपर से बर्फ थी। लेकिन मकसद था उनसे लड़ना, वो जो सरकारी कर्मचारी थे जो बोलेंगे कि आप ऊपर नहीं जा पाओगे, बड़ा मुश्किल होगा। तो हमने क्या करा, 2 दिन बर्फ में जब हम चलते हैं जैसे, तो लगातार एंटी सनबर्न क्रीम, यूवी प्रोटेक्शन क्रीम ये लगाते हैं ताकि स्किन ना हमारी ठीक रहे। हमने 2 दिन नहीं लगाई, उससे क्या हो गया, हमारे मुंह से ना थोड़ा बढ़ गया, थोड़ा और जोर से कर दिया, हमारे खून भी निकल गया। अब जब हम मेन ऐसे पैनल के सामने बैठे ना, मुख्यमंत्री जी बैठे थे, चीफ सेक्रेटरी बैठे थे, बोलते कल साहब बताइए, तो यहाँ सारे ब्यूरोक्रेट बैठे थे और इंजीनियर बैठे थे। तो उससे पहले ना हमने खून और निकाल दिया, और जब हमारे मुंह से खून निकल रहा है वो देख रहे हैं तो वो कैसे हम मना कर सकते हैं। और केदारनाथ कामयाब हो गया। आज तो सारी किस्मत हमारी, उसकी वजह से हमको जगह जगह ऐसे मौके मिलते हैं, जैसे आज इतना बढ़िया मौका मिल रहा है यहाँ पे शामिल होने का। लेकिन दोबारा से एक चीज बोलना चाहता हूँ सर, ये जो टीम है, अगर सिविल सोसाइटी में ये टीम अगर सोचती है कि डिजास्टर प्रिपेयर्डनेस रोल खाली एनडीआरएफ, एनडीएमए, इंडियन आर्मी, पैरामिलिट्री फोर्सेस का नहीं है, हमारा भी है। मेरे को पक्का यकीन है कि हम डिजास्टर के जो प्लान बनाते हैं, फर्स्ट रिस्पॉन्डर, पोस्ट रिस्पॉन्ड क्या करना है, कैसे मोटिवेशन करना है, कैसे इवैक्यूएशन प्लान बनने चाहिए, मेरे को पक्का यकीन है ऐसा इफेक्टिव प्लान बनेगा, चाहे हिमालय हो, चाहे हमारे प्लेन का इलाका हो, चाहे इतना बड़ा हमारा समुद्री इलाका हो, यहाँ पे डिजास्टर आएंगे और क्योंकि मजबूरी हमारी है, हम इंसान है, हमें तो इलाके में रहना है, हमें भागने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। पहाड़ हमारे जरूर वापस दोबारा मजबूत होंगे। उसी को देख करके आज मेरी किस्मत, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका कि आपने बुलाया और ज्वाइन करने का मौका मिला। धन्यवाद।
जी, कई सारी एनेक्डोट्स का जो अंडरलाइन थीम था, चाहे वो आपने पुतलों की बात की या शिव जी के बारात के ड्रेस की बात की, जो इंडिजीनियस विजडम है, जो लोकल विजडम है, वो कैसे कई बार हमें इजीली अप्रोप्रिएट टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से चीजों को सॉल्व करने में मदद करती है। विल कम बैक टू दैट, आई थिंक दैट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग। और दूसरा, विभिन्न प्रकार के हितधारक, गवर्नमेंट, ब्यूरोक्रेट्स, वो अगर साथ में काम करें तो क्या प्रभाव है? सो विल कम बैक, आई थिंक विल हैव अ कपल ऑफ क्वेश्चंस अराउंड इट। And since we have come back to the civil society, how the knowledge of civil society or collaboration is important. So, Kiranji, you are probably the best person, given your exposure working both with human capital. Human capital शायद सही शब्द नहीं है भारतीय परंपरा में बात करने की. So the potential of human beings as well as potential of civil society. As you have served through your different foundations, including UNGC. So, would like to have your opening remarks in terms of philanthropy, volunteerism, and how civil society's potential could be explored.
Good evening to all. Any disaster, I do not know many of us have really witnessed disaster. Many of us may not have had that opportunity, and still call it as an opportunity because for many students and people sitting here, we will read it. We may not be there during that particular event, during the situation. But I would like to just touch upon an incident. If there is an accident in the road, anywhere, you will see a mob which will gather. There will be people who will gather around, and then you will suddenly see somebody taking decisions. Whether the policeman is there or not, somebody will come, somebody will tell me, stop a vehicle, put him into the which is the nearest hospital. Somebody will call some ambulance. All this happens and nobody is trained. None of these people who attend to these things are trained people. But there is that feeling of when somebody is not able to do or there is a need for care, it's automatically that response comes and some take the leadership. So just to touch upon pandemic, the moment the lockdown was announced, the next day we started seeing labor migrating, walking back to their villages and place. And the immediate the same day evening, there were a lot of civil society, I would call the NGOs, who started working and giving meals and masks, sanitizers to those people who were there in various bus stands and railway stations. They were not knowing whether the trains are going to move or buses are going to go, but they were there. The moment people were there were also these organizations who started supporting them. And when such things were happening, corporates also started pouring out money. See, it was nobody had anticipated the national lockdown. Everybody was not clear how to function. But people were good-heartedness and things, they were already on the field. They were on roads. So, if civil society decides that, I mean, there is also nothing for them to decide because they have decided that we are for others. हम सेवा के लिए ही है, we will do things. So the moment there is a disaster happening, the people will immediately react. But the major issue here is, when we look at frameworks, we all look at training and preparedness and all those kind of things, which is very much required for a formal rescue operation. Without that, things will not happen. But at the same time, how do we involve the local community?
because they are your major strength and they are the people available at that point of time there. The first responders cannot be anybody else from outside. It has to be the local people, local community only. They are the people there. So how do we work with them? What is the mechanization? And the stickiness that is required between government and community, civil society will play that role. So this is how things work. And I think when it comes to philanthropy, in India we don't have a dump for money when it comes for any such causes. There are huge amounts of resources that come, pool out. People just call and say, okay, what is your requirement? Minister was saying that donor-based, we are moving away from donor-dictated relief, which is very true. It is happening that way. Because then the donors are also realizing what is the requirement there. They know better than us. So they are also now many organizations, foundations, corporates, and philanthropic fund generating organizations. They depend on grassroots level organizations to give them feedback. What works? See, when Tamil Nadu floods happened, people sent a lot of rotis. A truck full of rotis we saw people sending, but it was all thrown because nobody in Tamil Nadu eats roti. So if you ask to check with them what is required, then it becomes much easier for otherwise the relief also goes waste. So who plays this role again? It's the civil society which can play that role. Now again, government to government, there are a lot of things happen. The relief materials are given, but sometimes because of the bureaucracy involved, it will not be distributed. And the cost of distribution is also very high. When you look at even government system, the cost of distribution is higher than the civil society. So why the cost is also less? Because here people work with passion and volunteering spirit. So there are these things. I think collaboration is the key here. If we start working in isolation, we will not be able to look at the desired results. But if you are looking at relief, immediate relief, and how do we work, collaboration is a must. And this has to be anchored by civil society. Only then it becomes a people-driven relief. Otherwise, it becomes something which may not give the full satisfaction to the people. Let me end it here and then.
Dhanyavad, Kiranji. The point of community being the anchor is something which is very important, and that sets the perfect platform to start with some of the guided questions. मैं जब सोच रहा था कि किस प्रकार के guided questions हो, तो मुझे भी एक anchor की जरूरत थी. And then I read the 10-point agenda that Prime Minister had recently led. He talked about that during the LPDDR. I will not go to all the points. There were some 5-6 points that I thought would set the platform for this discussion. One, he talked about all sectors abiding to disaster management principles. So this is something which affects the civil society at large and the whole economic aspect. Second, he talked about work towards risk coverage for all. So we have seen it in terms of our social benefit schemes, we've seen it in livelihood, in terms of disaster. When he specifically defined poor households, SMH, multinational collaboration and national estates, so it covers right from the Antyodaya, the last mile of the society, till Sarvodaya, the highest of the levels, which is the state. Third point that particularly intrigued me when he talked about opportunity to learn from the disasters. This country has seen hundreds and thousands of disasters over last, at least if we talk about the independent India, पिछले 75 years we have seen so many disasters. But somehow in the process, a lot of learnings, a lot of wisdom has been lost. So how do we build upon that opportunity to learn? And fourth point that I thought could be the basis of this discussion is bringing greater cohesion in international response. So we'll have one of our keynote speakers, Herumji from Finland, who will talk about our response during the Ukraine crisis. So this I thought should be the premise for discussion. कोटला जी, मैं आपसे प्रारंभ करूंगा। मेरा पहला प्रश्न आपके लिए है, जब आपने कहा कि लिटरली एंड इट्स मेटाफोरिकली और लिटरली आपको खून दिखाने पड़े टू गेट देम अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज द नीड ऑन द ग्राउंड। मेरा भी एक छोटा अनुभव तपोवन ग्लेशियर बर्स्ट के दौरान रहा, जब वो धौली गंगा में, विष्णु गंगा में आपदा आई और मैं आपदा के 3 घंटे बाद तपोवन में था। वहाँ 7-8 एजेंसीज थी। We had Army, we had ITBP, we had NDRF, I mean SDRF, we had CISF because वो NTPC का प्लान था। We had district administration, we had police, we had civil society organization like ours, ग्राम पंचायत के थे। ऐसे कुछ 8-9 अलग-अलग प्रकार के स्टेक होल्डर्स टाउन पे थे। But who is taking the lead to dug out those 250 laborers from that tunnel for first 72 hours? ये स्पष्टता नहीं। And I'm sure आपके अनुभव में ये अलग-अलग स्तर पे लिखा होगा, जब किसी भी ऐसे आपदा में हम कहते हैं कि मल्टी स्टेक होल्डर अप्रोच होना चाहिए, इफेक्टिव कोलैबोरेशन होनी चाहिए, एफिशिएंट रिस्पांस होना चाहिए। It's good to know होना चाहिए, but I would like to understand where is the lacking? इसकी लैक्यूना कहाँ है? If we are all so well intended, why so far we have not been able to execute it or implement it so effectively? So this would help probably. And in terms of civil society, where is it that civil society should take lead in it? ये मेरा एक प्रश्न आपके लिए।
ये ना बड़ा ऐसा क्वेश्चन है जिसमें अगर आप बिल्कुल अभी क्लियर थॉट रखोगे तो कई बार लगता है कि आप किसी को क्वेश्चन कर रहे हो। फंक्शनिंग एजेंसी को या सरकार को आप बोल रहे हो कि तुमने अपना काम ठीक से नहीं करा, लेकिन मैं ना इसे दूसरे तरीके से बोलता हूँ। मेरे को याद है, मैं क्योंकि अब डिजास्टर की बात है, एग्जाम्पल तो बहुत सारे हो सकते हैं, लेकिन शॉर्ट में समझाने के लिए केदारनाथ का ही एग्जाम्पल दूंगा। हमारी जो आज देश की क्षमता है डिजास्टर को रिस्पॉन्ड करने के लिए, वो ना 2 बड़ी एजेंसी है। एक है मैनेजमेंट अथॉरिटी और एक मैनेजमेंट फोर्स। फोर्स हो गई जो कि ट्रेंड है, जो कि मोटिवेटेड एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, जिसमें आते हैं हमारी एनडीआरएफ की पर्सन है। उसको मैनेज करने के लिए कैसे उनकी ट्रेनिंग होनी चाहिए, कैसे हमें चीजों को अपना प्लान करना चाहिए, क्योंकि हिमालय में डिजास्टर आने ही है, सुनामी आनी है, लेकिन उसके पीछे हमने कैसे रहना है, तो वो कैसे करा जाए, कैसे इक्विपमेंट का इस्तेमाल हो जाए, किस जगह में जाके ट्रेनिंग करी जाए, वो है मैनेजमेंट अथॉरिटी एनडीए में। लेकिन एनडीए में और एनडीएमआरएफ उस टाइम ना बनी नहीं। एनडीए में थी, एनडीआरएफ थी, इनके नीचे बनती है स्टेट लेवल की अपनी अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, एसडीएम में एसडीआर। अब क्योंकि है तो बहुत जरूरी, लेकिन शायद उत्तराखंड में क्यों ये पहले हुआ, 2012 में भी आपदा आई, 2013 में भी आई, और छोटे छोटे फ्लैश फ्लड वहां आते रहते हैं। तो मेरे को याद है कि 2013 में जब एसडीआरएफ बन रही थी, तो एसडीआरएफ में फीडर कौन होंगे, जैसे सेंटर में एनडीआरएफ में तो सेंट्रल पुलिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो गई, आईटीबीपी हो गई, सीएसएफ हो गई, सीआरपीएफ हो गई। ऐसे स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के पास में कौन होता है, खाली पुलिस होती है, या उसके बाद में अपनी जो होमगार्ड हो गई और इस टाइप की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो गई जो कि यूनिफॉर्म होती है। तो उस टाइम में उत्तराखंड पुलिस के लड़के आ रहे थे एसडीआरएफ में। तो शुरू में ना बड़ा अजीब लगता था कि ये लड़के कैसे, और मेरे साथ रहे वो सब रेस्क्यू में भी और उसमें रिकंस्ट्रक्शन में भी। मैं बात कर रहा हूँ 2013 की। उस टाइम में मेरे को लगता था कि ये लड़के कभी ट्रेन हो पाएंगे कि ऐसा कुछ, लेकिन आज मैं देखता हूँ उत्तराखंड में जगह जगह इतने सारे, कभी कोई फ्लैश फ्लड आ रहा है, कभी कोई स्लाइड आ रहा है, कभी कोई ट्रैकर फंस जा रहा है। ये सब ना छोटे बड़े फॉर्म में डिजास्टर है, लेकिन ये कुछ लेवल तक तो ये ट्रेन हो गया, ये कहीं ना कहीं ना आगे को बढ़ रहा है। अगर हम ऐसे ही सिस्टम को थोड़ा सा और इम्प्रूव करने के लिए धीरे धीरे चीजों को चेक करके और क्वेश्चन करें तो पक्का अच्छा होगा। एग्जाम्पल दूंगा आप ही का, ये जो तपोवन वाला है ऋषि गंगा गौर, वहाँ पे एक प्रोजेक्ट है हाइडल प्रोजेक्ट। उस हाइडल प्रोजेक्ट में उसके ऊपर से नंदा देवी बायोस्फीयर रिजर्व से स्लाइड आया। स्लाइड की वजह से पानी रुका और बहुत तेजी से पानी एक साथ आया, और फिर पानी वैसे आया जैसे बलून होता है ना, गुब्बारे को हम गैस भरिए छोड़ते हैं तो एकदम से जाता है आगे, तो उस वाले इफेक्ट के साथ में आगे को बढ़ा। अब उस टाइम पे थी तो वहां पे 8 एजेंसी, लेकिन सोचने की जरूरत ये थी कि ये जो टनल के अंदर जो फंस गए 80-90-100 लेबर, इनके पास तो मुश्किल से 2 या 3 या 4 घंटे है। उसके बाद में तो बॉडीज होंगी, उसके बाद में तो प्रायोरिटी 4 बोलते हैं, फिर तो रिस्क लेने का भी ना चांस अपने आप कम हो जाता है। फिर खाली इमोशन की वजह से हम बॉडी को उसके मॉडल रिमेंस को करने के लिए लेके जाते हैं। शायद उस टाइम पे एक हेलीकॉप्टर आया था जिसका नाम है चिनू। अब चिनू कितना बढ़िया हेलीकॉप्टर था, वो ना अंडर स्लग उठा करके जाता है सीधा चीजें लेकर। हम वहां पे खोदने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, ये सारी की सारी खोज से, हाथ से, मशीन से। अगर कहीं थोड़ा सा हम दिमाग लगाते, क्योंकि 100 लोगों का सवाल था, क्योंकि भावनाओं का सवाल था, तो शायद हम 3 चिनू को उठा करके ना उस पार छोड़ देते। क्योंकि मैं वहां से नंदा देवी पर बीच में गया हूँ, मैं वहां के इलाके को समझता हूँ। केदारनाथ में अगर लोहे के टुकड़े को चिनूक लेके जा सकता है, उस टाइम पे अगर चिनूक चले जाता है, तो शायद जब चिनूक खोद सकता है, 1000 आदमी 10 घंटे में जो खोदेंगे चिनूक, ये अपना हमारा जो एक्सकेवेटर है, तो मुश्किल से 3 या 4 घंटे में खोदेगा। हमें आज डिजास्टर से लड़ने के लिए ये भी देखना है कि ठीक है दैवी आता है, लेकिन भगवान ने जानबूझ के नहीं करा, कहीं ना कहीं ये इशू है, और हमें भी अपने खुद से तैयार करने उससे लड़ने के लिए। और जब खुद से तैयार करते हैं ना, तो हमें सारी जान लगानी है। तो सारी जान में ऐसी ऐसी हमें जो बोल रहे हैं वो लगाने की जरूरत है। खाली ये है कि उनकी मॉक ड्रिल, उनकी प्रैक्टिस, उनकी प्रिपेयर्डनेस के लिए हम भी ट्राई करते हैं। इस टाइम पे तो अभी कोई आपदा नहीं आ रही ना, लेकिन अगर हम मॉक प्रैक्टिस करें और ये चीज करके देख लें, तो क्यों नहीं हम तैयार होंगे उस चीज को करने के लिए, जो शायद आज ये सेवा इंटरनेशनल जगह जगह सेमिनार करके लोगों से पूछ करके और एक सिस्टम बनाने की कोशिश कर रहा है।
हेलो, प्रिपेयर्डनेस फॉर ट्रेनिंग, ऐसे 2 विषय अपने इसमें, एंड Mrs. Indrandan, honestly this question was meant for Anil Gupta ji, but I will take the liberty of NITM के पूर्व में एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर रहे। Recently we were there, आप भी थे, मैं भी था, जो एक विजन 2047 पे NITM ने एक कॉन्फ्रेंस की, रेजिलियंस एंड सस्टेनेबिलिटी समिट, that was supposed to lay down कि भारत जब 100 वर्ष का हो तो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट की परिकल्पना कैसे। In that context, how do you see civil society playing a role? And academic institutions like NITM, which have the mandate to train people, you are already अपने आपदा मित्र जैसे कार्यक्रमों के मॉड्यूल्स तैयार किए हैं. So 2 parts to my question: how, in the vision of creating sustainable program for India at 100 in terms of disaster, you see role of civil society A, and B, connecting it back to what Prime Minister said, the wisdom or the learnings from these disaster programs should not be lost. How do you see role of institutions like NITM or any other academic institution?
So, capacity building and awareness is the key mandate of National Institute of Disaster Management. It is supposed to build the capacity of the government officials at the central level, at the state level, and at the district level. And now, even though officially it has not been declared, but the local population, community engagement, and NGOs and CSOs have also been included. During COVID-19, we had started an online disaster management awareness capsules. We started a program with Sphere India Academy, which is Sphere India is a coalition of over 155 NGOs, and we started Sphere India Academy, from where we did more than 1,000 programs, and that was with the community, where all these NGOs were dealing with. So the role of NGOs in the capacity building is very large, because they give us the missing link of reaching out to the community. The strength of a civil society organization, strength of an NGO or a community-based organization, CBOs, or the CSR activities of a corporate are directly dealing with the affected people. And that is where the government administration finds it difficult to reach each one of them individually. And that strength of such organization is being understood by the government now. And now the government is more than willing to engage with the civil society organizations in carrying out such preparatory level, mitigation level training and activities in various communities. Because time and again since morning you have heard that community needs to be trained. Everywhere you will find it is a community which helps. Even whether it is a problem at your own house, it is a neighbor who will come to you. ambulance comes later. If there's a road accident, the example which was given by Kiranji, exactly that would happen. Someone in the community, people around, they take the lead. And hence their training is now become a very important part of the whole disaster management capacity building. Second issue where NITM is also working on is awareness of the government officials towards disaster management. Everyone is aware that disaster management is a major issue. It is affecting our lives and it is going to affect our lives more and more as we proceed. Today, gone are those days when a person sitting in Rajasthan could say कि cyclone है वो उड़ीसा में आएगा या floods है वो बिहार में आएंगे. COVID has brought disaster into our own house, everyone's house, and coupled with that, this climate change that is now happening is going to accelerate this whole process. So that realization has come, but how to do it and what to do is the major push. In that, a proper structured training is required for both government officials, for both all the multi-stakeholders. One area where we are lacking today is training on disaster management in higher education institutes, HEIs. Even though I was responsible for making the curriculum, which is there on the UGC website for both graduate and postgraduate courses, but it is not being implemented. Only Bihar, just 2 weeks back, I was part of the discussion, studied the document and now they are thinking of introducing that as an elective subject in their universities. So awareness of each and every individual and also making them by inciting patriotism, by inciting various means, whether it be religious sentiment, whether it be caregiving, we need to invite the youth to take part in such activities. Because during disasters, it is only the youth which works. Leadership works because the youth is there. And for anything, in Srinagar floods we saw, it was the youth of Srinagar which was responsible to save maximum lives. If you see Srinagar floods of 2014, there's hardly any death. And that death is not due to drowning. That death is due to some other reason, some medical ailment because of that poisoned water or things like that, or someone fell into the water while going for some purpose at the middle of the night, breathing it out for some privacy, like that. But no one died due to a flood because the youth there was so active that they immediately took care of each other before army reached, before NDRF reached. So these are the three pillars which is being targeted at national level. And this is the right time for the civil society organization to grab this opportunity of taking the lead to train the community in accordance with the plans of the government, in accordance with the policies laid down by the government. Where this gap takes place, where no one knows who's to dig out the bodies from the tunnel, it is a fault of the local agencies. Government has initiated that every district, every industrial base will have their on-site and off-site emergency plans. What happened in Bhopal? Once the gas leak took place, no one around in the hospitals knew what was the gas and what antidote to keep. Had they been warned earlier that this particular company has this particular types of isocyanide, which can result in so and so ailment, and so you should keep some stock of that, maybe a lot of lives would have been changed. Similar thing, in wherever such things are not being followed, proper coordination is not being followed with the district authorities, there such types of questions come, who will do what? This all has to be structured. No matter what is the disaster, the sequence of action is the same. The speed depends upon the ferocity of the disaster. But generally the sequence is the same. And hence that needs to be formulated and practiced.
Right, sir. Very well articulated. Kiranji, the question that I would like to ask you. We have been talking about approach, and approach is a generic term. It could be contextualized in terms of development, disaster, any sector. In terms of disaster, we have been talking about what should be the approach to disaster strategy. Should it be ecology based? Should it be climate based? Should it be livelihood centric? Right? If we look at things from Bharatiya perspective, if we dig down what is the Indian approach to any disaster management or otherwise, what do you see would be the holistic approach since you have worked with civil society? And we see examples when Odisha government initiates something called Apada Prabandhan Yodha, which aims to train every household, or something like a climate resilient plan when government of UP goes out to create climate resilience plan for say 58,000 gram panchayats. So in terms of the grassroots approach to disaster, what is the approach which is not destructive but that has no counter effects in a way of put it that way?
Well, if you really look at disaster development, rehabilitation is one part of it. The second part is how we avoid disasters by putting best practices. Development, when it comes to rehabilitation, it has to be localized. And what the community needs, the very time what happens, we try to relocate them. Or we try to rebuild the things which are again not scientifically thought. So the best thing would be to work with the local agencies as well as community there to see how the development should be looked at. When it comes to the schemes which government are already having and those kind of things, again, how do we implement these things? Policy-wise, everything will be good. There is no doubt about the policy formation part. But when it comes to implementing part, again, who are the people who have to take the leadership? It automatically boils down to NGOs. Look at the menstrual hygiene, who is doing it? It is the NGOs. Wash program, NGOs. Similarly, you take up anything that has to become a mass movement. It has to be rooted to civil societies. Otherwise, it cannot become a movement. Swachhata Abhiyan was taken as a movement. It was not a program. The movement the approach changes there. Because then it is people will take it and lead it. It is not only where government decides, but people also take to the places where government even has not thought of. So I think if you are looking at disaster management, unless this also becomes a kind of movement, the structures wise, I don't see there is any lack of structure. There is NCC, there is NSS coordinator, colleges, the youth power is there. There are a lot of those things available. But how do we structure, how do we put these thoughts into them? That becomes the important. Second, another thing I would want to touch upon is when we talk about global civil society participation and belief and things. Many a time we again sit there from there the funder and decide what is the belief that what the rehabilitation that will be required. That becomes a very dicey thing because unless we are able to coordinate and send inputs, one is how can we send right inputs from the ground? Second thing is how do we make them understand that this is what is required because this is what is needed at the ground. Third thing, knowledge part of learning, you say. See, what NGOs basically they are action oriented. You ask them to talk with you, they will be able to. But if somebody has to bring this kind of a book, it's very difficult. So there are very few organizations which will be able to bring out these learnings. And I think somewhere in the process we should also train NGOs to document some of these learnings. Well, if you go to communities, you will find the stories which they will tell and they are aware. but how do you reach it to the policy makers? So from there, we need to take the story and reach it to the policy makers so that it can be acted as a.
Right, किरण जी, चूंकि हमारे पास समय है तो एक हम क्विक राउंड ऑफ मॉडरेशन क्वेश्चन और करेंगे एंड देन विल ओपन फॉर ग्रुप डिस्कशन। तो किरण कोटिया जी, इसमें एक प्रश्न जो किरण जी ने जहां विषय को रोका कि कम्युनिटी के की जो नॉलेज है उसे हम कैसे डॉक्यूमेंट करें। अभी हम वी हियर अ लॉट अबाउट नेचर बेस्ड सॉल्यूशंस। अभी एनपीडीआरआर में भी हमने प्रकृति आधारित समाधान पे बात की है, और इसमें फिर एक पहलू, जैसे ही हम नेचर कहते हैं तो हम समुदाय को दूर नहीं रह सकते, समाज और प्रकृति जुड़ी हुई है। तो नेचुरली नेचर बेस्ड सॉल्यूशन से कम्युनिटी बेस्ड सॉल्यूशन तक आना एक सहज प्रक्रिया है। आपके अनुभव में जब आपने ओपनिंग रिमार्क्स में भी 2-3 एनेक्डोट्स दिए, इस प्रकार की जब हमें समझ आती है कि कम्युनिटी ने कैसे लोकल विजडम से चीजों को आसानी से सॉल्व किया, जो प्रॉब्लम हमारे स्ट्रक्चर, हमारे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, हमारे पॉलिसी पैक्स में नहीं है। How should we, as a practitioner, someone who has fought all these battles as well as, I mean, metaphorically as well as actually, disaster theory context में, हम उन नॉलेज को हमारे जो नीति निर्धारक है, जो पॉलिसी मेकर्स है, उन तक कैसे लेके आए, और how do we ensure the knowledge is not lost in the process of transition? केदारनाथ में एक व्यक्ति ने काठ के ऊपर एक पुतला बना के जिस प्रकार से लाशों को ढूंढने की जो एक प्रक्रिया निभाई, how do we formulate it in terms of a policy, at the same time ensure its wisdom is not lost?
अभी क्या हुआ कि कोई 3-4 महीने पहले खबर आई कि उत्तराखंड में एक जगह जोशीमठ टूट रहा है, तो उसमें ना कई एजेंसीज गई, उन्होंने जाकर के अपना असेसमेंट करना शुरू करा। तो ऐसे ही घूमते हुए हम भी गए और जाकर के मैं 3-4 दिन वहां पे रहा, तो मैंने देखा उस एजेंसी में एक लड़की थी, शी वाज अ जियोलॉजिस्ट, उसकी नई नौकरी लगी। तो मैंने उससे पूछा कि ऐसे पहले तो क्योंकि बड़े एंथुसियाज्म थे, अकेले वो ना घूमती थी और जगह जगह पे जो क्रैक्स आ रही थी तो उनको देखती थी। मैंने ऐसे पूछा कि मैडम आप कौन है? तो उसने बोला मैं ये वाडिया इंस्टीट्यूट है देहरादून में, उसमें नई नौकरी पे लगी हूँ और छुट्टी लेकर के आ रखी हूँ देखने के लिए कि यहाँ पे क्या है। मैंने कहा छुट्टी लेके क्यों? तो तब उसने मेरे को एक बड़ी अच्छी चीज बोली, कहती है हिमालय है, इस हिमालय में तो डिजास्टर आने ही आने हैं, तो इसका मतलब ये तो सबसे बढ़िया प्लेटफॉर्म है प्रैक्टिकल लर्निंग के लिए कि अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे जियोलॉजी पढ़ रहे हैं या हम जियो टेक्नीशियन बनना चाह रहे हैं या हम डिजास्टर प्रिपेयर्डनेस की बात कर रहे हैं, तो कहीं पे अगर कुछ आए ना आए उसके असर तो बाद में भी रहते हैं ना। अगर क्रैक है तो वो तो 4 साल के बाद भी रहता है, कि क्यों ना हम जाकर के वहां पे देखें। तब उस लेडी की बात है ना, मेरे को एक चीज याद आई थी, दोबारा केदारनाथ पे जा रहा हूँ क्योंकि वहां के मेरे एक्सपीरियंस भी एक्चुअल भी। क्या हुआ कि केदारनाथ में जब आपदा आई तो ये है 6-7 मिनट की बात, वो 6-7 मिनट में इतनी तेज जो बारिश थी जिसमें कि ईस्टर्ली भी थे, वेस्टर्न डिस्टर्बेंस भी था, दोनों फंस गए थे। और जिससे बोलते हैं क्लाउड बर्स्ट की डेफिनेशन कि 1 घंटे में अगर 8 इंच से 12 इंच बारिश हो रही है तो क्लाउड बर्स्ट होते हैं। वहां पे तो 16, 17, 18 इंच की बारिश हो रही थी, लेकिन साथ में पीछे चोरावाली ताल है, ग्लेशियर था जिसके नीचे एक ताल है, तो ताल भी फट गया। तो 6-7 मिनट में हुआ। अब उसमें असर मैं अगर समझाने के लिए बोलूं, अगर कोई केदारनाथ गया बाद में आपदा के बाद, तो केदारनाथ मंदिर के पीछे ना एक बहुत बड़ा पत्थर है, उसे बोलते हैं भीमशिला, आज भी उसका नाम भीमशिला है। जितना बड़ा हमारा ये कमरे की चौड़ाई है, इतने बड़े पत्थर, पानी में ऐसी कौन सी ताकत है कि वो इतने बड़े पत्थरों को लेकर के ना आई। अब ऐसे नहीं कि 5 फीट 10 फीट, मतलब 300-400 फीट तक वो पत्थर है। अब जब केदारनाथ रिकंस्ट्रक्शन हो रहा था तो उस टाइम पे चैलेंज ये भी था कि दोबारा भी ये सिचुएशन आ सकती है, तो कैसे आप फिर केदारनाथ को सेव करोगे? तो मेरे पास आए कोई 17-18 ऐसे लड़के लड़कियां जो जियोलॉजी की पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं। वो कहते हैं सर हमको ना एक मौका दो, हम पैदल चल के आएंगे, अपना टेंट लेके आएंगे, अपना खाना खुद बनाएंगे, खाली आप ना हमें समझाना कि यहाँ पे डिजास्टर आया कैसे था, कौन सी नदी फटी थी, कौन सी ताल थी, ये सब चीजें कैसे हुई। अच्छा जब वो आए तो हमें लगा कि मतलब बड़े इंतुजियाज्म हैं। मैं वो बात कर रहा हूँ कलाम साहब की, इग्नाइटेड माइंड की, तो यहाँ पे बहुत सारे बैठे हैं। वो कहते हैं कि हम आपसे ना आपको एक ऐसा अपना प्रपोजल दें, कुछ नहीं, कोई प्लान कुछ नहीं किसी ने। अब जब वो प्रपोजल की बात आई तो फौजी हूँ, तो हमारे यहाँ होता है ग्रुप डिस्कशन, सिलेक्शन के लिए हर जगह होता है। तो हमने कहा चलो ग्रुप डिस्कशन करा लेते हैं। तो हमने ऐसे ना 8-8 के 3-4 ग्रुप बनाए और उनको अच्छा कागज पेन सब दिया और फिर समझाया कि ये चोरावाड़ी ताल है, ये मंदाकिनी नदी है, ये फलानी नदी है, ऐसे आया था ग्लेशियर, ये फटा था, ऐसे पानी आया, मतलब जो हमें जानकारी दी। अब उनको बोला कि चलो तुम देखो। उन बच्चों ने कहां तक सोच लगाई कि जैसे मैं बोलूं कि अगर मेरे पीछे ताल है, यहाँ से पानी आ रहा है सीधा, तो पानी आएगा या हमारे बीच में टकराएगा, यहाँ से टकरा करके पानी ने दोबारा उछलना है, फिर आगे जाएगा, आगे जा करके। उन बच्चों ने वो सोच लगाई। उन्होंने कहा पानी ऐसे आ रहा था, यूं करके टकराया, यहाँ बीच में, यहाँ से टकराया तब ये पत्थर यहाँ गया। तो उन्होंने मेरे को बड़ा एक अच्छा सा सुझाव दिया। कहते हैं पानी को हम नहीं रोक सकते, लेकिन पानी की स्पीड को कम कर सकते हैं। पहली बार ये पानी को रोकोगे टूट जाओगे। तो उन्होंने कहा पहली बार तुम क्या करो, पहले तो 3-4 छोटी-छोटी पानी की धाराएं आ रही है, उनको ना अलग करो, फिर से उनको चैनलाइज ऐसे करो कि वो अपनी अपनी दिशा में चले जाए। अब मुट्ठी नहीं बन पा रही है पानी की, पानी कमजोर हो गया। सेकंड स्टेज में उन्होंने बोला एक प्रोटेक्शन स्कीम बनाओ, लेकिन प्रोटेक्शन स्कीम सीमेंट की दीवार की नहीं होनी चाहिए, वो जाली की होनी चाहिए, ताकि उसमें ना पानी जाए, पत्थर रुक जाए और पानी आगे चले जाए। मतलब सोच उनकी। अब थर्ड स्टेज में उन्होंने बोला कि दीवार बना दो कि पानी को टकराए और ऐसे बने और वो बने। हमने वो छोटी सी सोच सेंट्रल बिल्डिंग रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट रुड़की की जो एक फेमस कंस्ट्रक्शन एजेंसी है, हमने उनको दी। वो हमारे टेक्निकल एडवाइजर थे। उन्होंने केदारनाथ के पीछे 3 टियर प्रोटेक्शन स्कीम बनाया और आज वो कामयाब है। मतलब इतना बड़ा बना है वो। इन बच्चों की सोच से जो लोकल सोच को हमें यूज करना है। उनको हम गांव में भेजेंगे, बोलेंगे यार तुम देख अगर यहाँ पे कुछ हो गया तो क्या करता है, उसका दिमाग ना घूम ही रहा है। वो तो कह रहा है कि मैं खुद करके जाकर नहीं देख के आऊंगा। वो सबसे बड़ी हमेशा कॉलेज यूनिवर्सिटी को ये बोलना चाहिए, प्रैक्टिकल सिखाने के लिए उन जगहों पर भेजो बच्चों को, थोड़ा सा कंफर्ट दो बच्चे को। कंफर्ट की भी जरूरत है, खट में उसे मजा आता है, घर पे मजा आता है, खाना भी नहीं है वो और ज्यादा उसको इच्छा होती है कि मैं तो एक्टिव आ रहा हूँ, ये करने की क्या जरूरत है। सर ऐसी चीजें हम जब करते हैं तो हो सकता है।
बिल्कुल कर्नल कोटिया जी। So Major General Bindal ji, we see similar examples all across the country. ये जैसे उत्तराखंड का एक एग्जांपल है, पूरे ही देश के ऐसे उदाहरण देखते हैं। Based on your experience in dealing with global catastrophes, global conflicts, my question is very pointed. Based on all these potential indigenous knowledge that this country has, in terms of disaster management strategy, what does India have to offer to the world or to the globe? How do we lead the global disaster management strategy in time to come?
वीके चतुर्वेदी का कोई वो है क्या?
India today is more or less a world leader as far as disaster management. We are the only country in the world which has got a dedicated national disaster response force of 16 battalions, which who are doing formidable job. We are one of the very few countries who came out with a disaster management act 2005. You know, during COVID, UK had to bring in a COVID law applicable for 6 months, and then after 6 months again they extended it by 3 months, and there were so many litigations in UK against that law, whereas in India you saw one order from the ministry, one order from the Ministry of Home Affairs, and everything was sorted out. All states, like, whereas disaster is a state subject. It is not to be controlled by the center. But the institutional mechanism also talks about that should there be a global, in our case, national level disaster, the center can pass instructions. We already have a public distribution system of food grains as well as a public health emergency system. Why our system work? Why could we achieve both food to the poorest of the people as well as vaccine and medication to the poorest of the people? Because we have that system working. USA, which is way ahead of us as far as medical is concerned, the complete medical system is outsourced to the insurance companies and for big pharma companies. As a result, No one had money to pay for that. Some people had social security passes, but the government was helpless in reaching out to the people. So there are many good examples that India has shown. Uh, When the vaccine was being voted and the countries were trying to sell them, India gifted it to 50 countries. Whereas even our own population was also wanting it, but a certain part of it went to the countries. 50 countries it went. That is the strength of India. The Vasudev Kutumbakam that we talk about is being practiced. It is very practiced in the true spirit. We are home to almost all the disasters. The only disaster that we don't have is a hurricane. But akin to that, we have cyclones. We have proved to the world that in 1999, when cyclone Hudud came, which was a super cyclone, and we had in Odisha, we had close to 10,000 deaths. Same thing after 10 years, when cyclone Foni came, in which the wind speeds were 1.5 times cyclone Hudud. Cyclone Hudud had 210 kilometers an hour, whereas in cyclone Foni, it was 270 to 290 kilometers an hour. The deaths were less than 10, whereas the geographical area was more. So we have learned from our mistakes. We have adapted and we have formalized our structures that we will not let things happen the way they were happening earlier. One of the speakers earlier were talking about number of people who died in COVID. India is one of the lowest when we calculate it in terms of people per million. We are in single digit, whereas all Western countries, they are in 3 digits or 4 digits. So we have a very good support system. We have a family support system. We have a community support system. Our value systems are enough to make us strong. Today, anything happens, everyone gets together. The family gets together. We teach our children to stay with their family. Not like what some countries say, the moment that what is happening in school after 16 years, they have this program. Some program they have, and there are the girls and boys are totally fed up with it. What is the name of that? We also have graduations of the state, not exactly graduation, something else, but they are totally fed up for themselves. They're breaking the family. Today in Australia, restaurants are offering concession to anyone who comes with his family. The more the people come, the more the concession being given to them in the food bill. We got an example of someone was telling about China also. Shyamji was telling us how now they are promoting family relationship. Well, these are the strong bonds that we have, soft power that we have. That in times of crisis, we come together and help each other. That time there is no religion, no caste, no creed. And then, of course, then we go back to our ways. The West is not able to cope up with that. So there are many good things that India has to offer, and a lot of applications. There's 10 points of Prime Minister, which was unveiled in 2016 in Asia Industry Conference. Was given by the Prime Minister, which combines all the international frameworks, the WHO framework, the C20 framework, the Paris Agreement, the climate agreement. All of them were combined, and a team of people in India, they framed was 10 points. 10-point agenda of the Prime Minister on disaster risk management. It covers each and every point which is in the international framework, which we are supposed to fulfill by 2030. All the agendas are 2030. So, if we follow those 10 points in return and spirit, we are on the right track, and we are already doing that. These conferences, many people talk about that. These conferences are just on paper. Today, in this conference, so many people have learned so much. From people who have done that or done this business for longer period of time. And we have learned from each other, and at least we will be talking the right thing after this. Wherever possible, whichever appointment we will go, we will think about this. That is the success of such conference. This particular book is a landmark book. I have not seen any civil society organization so far, even though I'm on the national board of sphere, taking out a book purely on disaster management. They have such publications of showcasing the 20 years, 30 years, but that covers each and everything, child care, health care, education, everything. A book specifically dedicated to disaster management is not there by any of the CSOs or NGOs. So this needs to be advertised for people to follow. This has got the good practices of nearly 40 or disaster. Such type of publications are required and they need to be advertised so that people learn from this and don't do the same mistake or don't start inventing the thing again. So this is what I think.
Thank you, sir. I think it covers both what we are doing and what we aspire to do. Last question before we open for public discussion. And Kiranji, this question is to you also as a CEO Sherpa of C20. The working group of Seva International, the working theme that we are working is sense of service, philanthropy, and volunteerism. You touched upon a point, community being an anchor, which I said I'll come back. Now, for the community to be the anchor, which essentially means there has to be a sense of service and volunteerism in them. So the second aspect of role of philanthropy is funding agencies. We have something like climate financing or climate fund coming up when we talk about new collective quantified goals that 53 members came together. With all these things happening, to make community the most efficient anchor in terms of resilience, in terms of capacities, in terms of their response capabilities. What should be the role of corporates and philanthropies to enable community become that?
If you look at the corporate, the way they have been also maturing, it will support earlier it was just to build a brand they used to do something. And that used to be in and around their own area. I'm talking even much before CSR. So it was more of a, I can do it, I will do it. It was more of, looked at more like a charity. Later, today, if you look at CSR, and environment, industry, governance, environment, governance, and health is also from a government perspective. Today, you need to even submit a report to MCA based on that. Which means the corporates are also looking at how do we work with in alignment with the community. It is not that I am a buyer, I'm a seller and you are a buyer. They are looking in alignment of these. So many corporates have, I would say, funders. It could be they are looking at holistic participation and community ownership-based solutions. So there definitely the shift has happened. One is because statutorily they have to do something, as well as they are feeling that the civil societies are able to work in that direction. If you look at minimum time, so there are 33 lakh NGOs registered in India. You will look at there were less than 2,20,000 NGOs who have got ATT as 12 certification, which means only that many NGOs are can receive funds. There are a lot of other NGOs which are still there. So if you look at philanthropy is also moving from an air conditioned room to field. That's what I think. There's definitely a shift.
So thank you, Major General Bindalji, Kiranji, Colonel Kothiyalji. That was my inquisitiveness. Would like to open it up to the audience. आपके कुछ प्रश्न है, अनुभव है, disaster, community और global. इन तीनों परिप्रेक्ष्य में your questions, your remarks, your suggestions, your experiences are welcome. So over to you. we'll start with Malik. Just a small request. When you ask your question, kindly introduce yourself, your name, organization, place, that.
My name is Malik from Saksham. I have one question and one remark or observation. The question is, I think it's traveler's course. Many organizations are doing wonderful work. But we still feel that the work is incomplete. Other global standards will be set. Though we are not experts in disaster management, but ये जरूर जब हम कम्युनिटी की बात कर रहे हैं तो कंट्री के almost 5-7% population is person, almost 12% is adults, and maybe pregnant ladies. तो जब ये disaster होते हैं, disaster preparedness, we are being सक्षम की तरफ से हम लोग ये करने की कोशिश करें. What are those guidelines? What are those best practices? Are they exist? Are we new to evolve? केरला सरकार ने बहुत अच्छा मॉडल से शुरुआत की. So this is the right time for Seva International and also for disaster management authority take up this inclusive guidelines. How do a person who cannot hear respond to an earthquake or a sudden action? How do a pregnant lady or an elderly on a hill area जब ऐसा एक होती है तो उनको रेस्क्यू करने का उनका प्रिपेयर कम्युनिटी के अंदर. So generally it is a family which takes a program. There is no research done. There are no statistics to tell, or there are no prescribed methodologies while doing it as far as our understanding is concerned. So maybe this would be a good starting point for us to see that to make the entire exercise inclusive. So that सभी लोग समावेशी तरीके से इसमें आए, and they are building capacities of multiple stakeholders. ये किस तरीके से किया जा सकता है ये एक बात. अगर कोई बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस है तो हम पैनल डेवलप कर सकते हैं. एक छोटा सा ऑब्जर्वेशन मैं कहना चाहता हूँ. सर एक तो आर्मी में आप कमाल के स्टोरी टेलर है, लेकिन आप जैसे स्टोरी टेलर आर्मी में रहते हैं. अगर कंटेंट और करिकुलम जिस तरीके से आपने आज हम लोगों से शेयर किया, अगर इस तरीके से शेयर किया जाए तो कंपलसरी ना भी करे एवरीबॉडी की. तो द मोस्ट प्रॉब्लमेटिक एरिया इस कंट्री का वो मेटेरियल सिस्टम से हम कंटेंट बनाते हैं, लोगों को बचाने के बजाय बचाने के तरीकों को हम रख के एग्जामिनेशन में डालते हैं. तो एक इनोवेशन की यहाँ पे भी जरूरत है. और हम जेएनयू में बैठे हुए, मैं जेएनयू से हूँ, तो ये कहना मेरे लिए बहुत जरूरी है. सेवाई करने का लिंक जेएनयू के साथ क्या है. तो जेएनयू का लाइब्रेरी तो जैसे हम बात कर रहे हैं लेकिन एक्सपेरिमेंट 2 डिकेड्स पहले हुई थी. श्याम जी हम लोग तो विद्यार्थी थे यहाँ से, लेकिन जब श्याम जी हमारे मेंटर थे रिहैबिलिटेशन तो हो जाएगी, इसके बाद क्या होगा. व्हाट अबाउट रेजिलियंस मॉडल. तो जो मॉडल्स वी हैव सीन द वे दैट वी वर्क इन टच, so that is where several integrations was a very late entrance in the project, but it is clear the thought process. तो 2 करोड़ की कोई फंड बेसिक की आइडिया है, इसमें इंतराज के कैसा प्रपोजल बनाओ तो 25 साल के बाद भी देखा जा सकता है. तो आज जो गिफ्ट आप लोगों को मिला है वो वही रबारी एम्ब्रॉयडरी टच महिलाओं का. तो अभी 25 साल ऑलमोस्ट 22-23 साल हो गए वो प्रोजेक्ट चल रहे हैं. माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी बहुत बार वापस जाते भी आए. मच बियॉन्ड सिविल सोसाइटी, लोकल कम्युनिटी कल्चर के साथ किस तरीके से इंटीग्रेट करके उनका लाइवलीहुड इकोसिस्टम में डालना चाहिए. ये एक प्रकल्प सक्सेस. बट व्हाट वी हैव लर्न फ्रॉम टच द वे दैट इट वाज ऑर्गेनाइज्ड, आई थिंक जब प्रधानमंत्री जी कहते थे आपदा से अवसर, तो यही वापस और ये धरातल में हमने देखा जब टच को जिस तरीके से रिहा किया गया, वहां पे रहने वाले ऑटो ड्राइवर से लेकर एंटायर समाज किस तरीके से उसमें से अवसर ढूंढ रहे थे. डिजास्टर हैपेंड बट वी नीड टू रीबिल्ड दैट. अगर आज टच को देखते हैं हम लोग इस तरीके से वो एक डेस्टिनेशन बन गई है उस डिजास्टर से उभर के, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ ग्रेट लर्निंग सेशन करने होता है. सो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट के साथ ये रेजिलियंस मॉडल लोकलाइज्ड रेजिलियंस जिसकी चर्चा अभी क्या व्यवस्था है हो सकती है ये
marginalized people, elderly people, persons with disabilities. क्या आपने बात की?
Okay. Marginalized people, inclusive disaster management, pregnant ladies, elderly, children, इनकी बात की, इनको लेके काफी चर्चा हो रही है और अभी एनडीएमए की गाइडलाइंस भी निकल रही है इनको लेके, पुरानी गाइडलाइंस भी निकली हुई थी। आपको जान के खुशी होगी कि अभी अब साइक्लोन फोनी आया था, सुपर साइक्लोन था, उसमें जब उन्होंने कैंप्स बनाए, उन्होंने हर सेक्शन के लिए अलग अलग बनाए क्योंकि दैट वाज ड्यूरिंग कोविड, इट वाज अ कॉन्करिंग डिजास्टर। तो उन्होंने क्या किया, एल्डरलीज को विद इन दैट कैंप उनके लिए अलग जगह बना दी और उनके लिए एक्स्ट्रा मेडिकल केयर रखी वहां पर, मोर देन अदर्स, they know कि they require more. They kept a separate camp for the pregnant ladies. You'll be surprised that during cyclone Foni, there were nearly 60 or 62 pregnant ladies का बच्चों को birth हुआ, 100% survived. That much care they took for them to ensure that it happens. That is all based when you have segregated data. Before the event takes place. If you don't have segregated data, then you are dependent upon someone telling you कि उस घर में ये हो रहा है, उस घर में ये हो रहा है, उसको बचाइए या उसको देखिए। Segregated data अगर आपने पहले से बना रखा है, तो एक post disaster needs assessment का एक integral part है। कि आपके पास before disaster what is there and what can go wrong, you can prioritize and you have awareness. So उसमें Odisha has made a great job. केरला में आपका जब फ्लड्स आए 2019 में, third day they started on their ambulance service which went from door to door wherever the ambulance could go without waiting for the people to come out, because केरला की प्रॉब्लम ये है कि वहाँ सब कोई एक एक अलग अलग घर में रहता है, unlike ours where we stay together, केरला में सब अलग अलग। Today there is a massive problem. सबका अपना वो फार्म हाउस कहते हैं, उसके बीच में एक घर, उसमें एक एक elderly people रह रहे हैं and all बच्चे बच्चे सब बाहर, so they are all isolated, एक एक घर पे जाके उन्होंने वो किया। If you remember, आपने WhatsApp पे भी देखा होगा कि disposal of dead, again Kerala started that mobile thing, which was not very successful because the bodies were getting only half burned, but they took an initiative to look after such marginalized people. So the urgency is there. It all depends upon at some stage who is in charge and what is his practice. Such forums are important to lay down that this is an important priority. In Bhuj earthquake, there was a elderly for flying between Bhuj but near Bachao. 18 people were there flying. When the earthquake happened, they all died because it happened at a time when it was a holiday. So only one chap was there. He could not take out everyone. The earthquake took that much time. All of them, but they didn't know what to do. No one trained them. No lecture had taken place that should the ground shaking, where should you go? They were also confused. Here, during COVID-19, now I'm talking about persons with disabilities. So many difficulties took place because the caregiver was not there. That migrant population, जिसकी बात की थी, they went away. But there was no one giving them money. So caregiver is not there, and to handle a person with disability who is dependent upon a caregiver is the most difficult job in the world. It broke so many families because of that. There are associated problems. Not everything will have a clear-cut answer. Somewhere our community comes together to hold the hand, neighbors come together to hold the hand. Government can do only so much. The government cannot go to each house and start helping. So that is where such organizations come in. They are the missing link between the government and the community, which they Philanthropy. And that is why the role of CSOs and NGOs is becoming more and more pronounced, and it is being recognized.
आपकी बात से सर की बात में थोड़ा ऐड करूंगा। धन्यवाद, आपने मेरे को बोला कि फौजी भी स्टोरी टेलर होते हैं। पर्सनल एग्जाम्पल है जो भी बात कर रहा हूँ, इसलिए जब स्टोरी टेलिंग भी वैसी लग रही है। इसी चीज का उदाहरण दे रहा हूँ, ये भी एक फौज की स्टोरी है। इंडियन आर्मी अपनी क्षमता पे, अपने रिश्तेदारों पे, अपनी कौम पे, अपने देश पे, उसके नाम पे ना अपने को इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग समझती है कि अगर दुश्मन कितना भी ज्यादा आ जाए, चीन इतनी बड़ी पॉपुलेशन होगी, कितनी बड़ी फौज आ गई, लेकिन आखिरी दम तक आखिरी आदमी रहेगा। लेकिन फिर भी क्या होता है, कई बार ना हमें हारना पड़ता है, हमें अपनी पोस्ट छोड़नी पड़ जाती है। तो ट्रेनिंग का एक हिस्सा है। अटैक आया, अटैक में आपकी पोस्ट छूट गई, मैं कोई कॉन्फिडेंशियल बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, बड़ी बेसिक कर रहा हूँ। जब पोस्ट छूट गई तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि हम छोड़ के चले जाएंगे। हम अटैक जो हारे हम दोबारा काउंटर अटैक करेंगे, उसे बोलते हैं काउंटर अटैक प्लान। और काउंटर अटैक प्लान में क्या सिखाया जाता है, पहले से ही तैयारी होती है कि हाँ हो सकता है कि हमको पोस्ट छोड़नी पड़े, तो दाएं बाएं से नफरी इकट्ठी करेंगे, रात को अटैक करेंगे। जब रात को अटैक करेंगे तो कैसे आप अपनी पोस्ट पे पहुंचोगे, बिल्कुल सही तरीके से जहाँ दुश्मन पहुंच गया। जैसे मैं बोलूँ रात को हमें कमरे में घुसना है और यहाँ लाइट नहीं है, तो क्या करते हैं, एक बीच में ना कहीं वो इल्यूमिनेटिंग थी कोई एक मार्किंग कर दी, कहीं पे कोई सफेद रंग कर दिया, तो देख के हो जाता है इधर जाकर के अच्छा ये मेरी कुर्सी है। हमें जहाँ पे कॉन्ग्रीगेशन ज्यादा होते हैं पहाड़ों में या जहाँ पे डिजास्टर आते हैं, हमें पता है कि उन्हीं जगहों पे अगर डिजास्टर आएगा तो ह्यूमन डेथ बहुत ज्यादा हो सकती है। मटेरियल डेथ को तो फिर भी हम ठीक कर सकते हैं, पर ह्यूमन तो नहीं आ सकता। ह्यूमन को सेव करने के लिए ये जो बड़े हमारे क्रिटिकल एलिमेंट्स हैं सोसाइटी में, बुजुर्ग हो गए, महिलाएं हो गए, प्रेग्नेंट, जिनके पाँव खराब है, हमें वहाँ पे उन जगहों पे पहले से प्लान रखना चाहिए कि अगर ऐसी चीज होती है तो इन लोगों को इवैक्यूएट करके जरूरी नहीं है नीचे लेके जाया जाए, इनको पहले इकट्ठा करके साइड में रखा जाए जहाँ पे कि डिजास्टर का असर नहीं आता। वो आसान तरीका है। और वो ना इसमें जो एक्चुअली जो डिजास्टर ट्रेनिंग प्लान होते हैं, क्योंकि मैंने कुछ कोर्स अटेंड करे हैं, कुछ प्रैक्टिकल देखे हैं नेपाल में और इन जगहों पे, और जहाँ पे मैं प्रिंसिपल हूँ वहाँ पे डिजास्टर की ट्रेनिंग कराई जाती है। तो ये ना ट्रेनिंग का हिस्सा है कि कैसे आपको ये करना है। दूसरा आप देखिए, जब हम शादी में जाते हैं तो क्या शादी में नहीं होता, जो बुजुर्ग होता है ना उसको सबसे ऐसी जगह बिठाया जाता है मुश्किल जगह पे जाने के लिए होना। आज भी खाली ऐसा नहीं है, मंदिरों में डिजास्टर आएंगे तो वहाँ पे हमें सेफ्टी देखनी है। कई जगह है जहाँ पे की गाड़ी खड़ी होती है, अगर उस जगह आपके पास फ्लाइट आ गया तो ठीक है इवैक्यूएशन तो होगा, लेकिन इन लोगों को कैसे आप सेव करके एक साइड में रखो, जरूरी नहीं है इवैक्यूएशन, लेकिन आपने अगर उनको साइड में कर दिया तो जान करके अगले स्टेप ना अपने आप उसके बाद में होता रहता है। ऐसी चीजें हमें करने की जरूरत है, हमारी प्रैक्टिस में है ये चीजें, इनको हमें प्रैक्टिकली इम्प्लीमेंट करने की जरूरत है मेरे ख्याल से।
जी नहीं पूछिए ना, ऐसा मैं बस ऐड कर रहा था, सक्षम ऑलरेडी इनमें से बहुत सारी चीजें कर रही है। अब
जो कुछ पूछना नहीं था वो चीजें बस ऐड कर। एक तो जैसा आपके सामने बोला आपको तैयारी के लिए ये मेरी जानकारी में अच्छा होता है। मेरा नाम सुशील है और मैं यूथ फॉर का उत्तर भारत का नाम करंट प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में जैसा अभी आपने बताया, ये मेरी जानकारी में बहुत से दूसरे व्यक्ति हैं जो कि रचना धर्मिता में थोड़ा ज्यादा आगे है। ये कर्नल बीपी मलिक है, कर्नल बीपी सिंह, वो राष्ट्रीय स्तर के कवि हैं और बहुत अच्छे होते हैं। तो आप जिस तरीके से बता रहे थे वो सच में उसको प्रैक्टिकल है। दूसरा जो चीज मैं बताना चाह रहा था, बहुत बीच बीच में बात आई लोकल विषयों की। सौभाग्य से मुझे एक इंटरनेशनल प्रोग्राम, इंटरनेशनल स्टडी करने का मौका मिला था 2012-13 के दौरान। इस अफ्रीका में कुछ छोटे छोटे देश हैं, युगांडा, तो वहाँ पे एक जैक्शा फाउंडेशन करके कंसोर्शियम है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का, तो ब्रिटिश कंसोर्शियम है। तो हम लोग इनफॉर्मल लर्निंग सिस्टम वहाँ पे सेटअप करने का एक प्लान करते हैं। भारत देश में फॉर्मल लर्निंग सिस्टम भी बहुत मजबूत है, स्टेट का जो है वो है, सेंटर का अलग से है, और इनफॉर्मल लर्निंग सिस्टम भी बहुत, इससे हमारा देश टॉप पर है। वहाँ पे फॉर्मल लर्निंग सिस्टम ही नहीं है, कोई कैम्ब्रिज बोर्ड का पढ़ा रहा है, कुछ तो जो इंडियन बहुत के हैं वो यहाँ का भी पढ़ा रहे हैं, और वहाँ की गवर्नमेंट सबको अनुमति दे रही है। तो इनफॉर्मल लर्निंग सिस्टम की बात ही नहीं हो सकती है, क्योंकि जब फॉर्मल ही नहीं है तो इनफॉर्मल कहाँ है।
So we were trying to establish at least one common learning system जिससे कि वो लोगों को थोड़ा सहायता हो सके। तो उसमें क्या अप्रोच किया गया वो हम यहाँ पे डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट में भी कर सकते हैं, हो सकता है, क्योंकि आई एम नॉट एक्सपर्ट इन दैट। The people who are expert they can they can think oh is it possible or not। तो जो क्वेश्चन मैं देख रहा था मैं उनका कल्चरल एस्पेक्ट स्टडी कर रहा था कि जब हम इन्फॉर्मल लर्निंग सिस्टम इंट्रोड्यूस करने वाले हैं या इन्फॉर्मल लर्निंग सिस्टम बनाने वाले हैं तो किसके लिए बनाना है, वहाँ के लोगों के लिए बनाने वाले हैं। अब वहाँ के लोग या कहीं के भी लोग सबसे ज्यादा नजदीक अपने कल्चर अपने ट्रेडिशन अपने समाज की जो उनकी मूलभूत जानकारियां हैं उनके सबसे ज्यादा पास होते हैं। तो उसको लेके अगर आप कोई कुछ भी बनाएंगे तो उनसे ज्यादा वो जुड़ा महसूस करेंगे और उसको सीखने का प्रयास करेंगे। तो हमने वहां पे एक अलग सेक्शन बनाया था जो मैं देख रहा था वो था कल्चरल स्टडीज। तो उससे जब वो फाइनली बन के तैयार हुआ तब पता चला, शुरू में सबने उसको बोला था कि ये तो अलग से थोड़ा लेती हो जाएगा, लेकिन तब पता चला कि उसका क्या उसकी क्या आवश्यकता है। तो अभी ये दो चीजें हैं, हम एक सेमिनार कर रहे हैं, दूसरा लोकल रिसर्च। तो अगर हम दोनों को थोड़ा पहले अलग अलग स्टडी करें, इस तरह के ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इस तरह के सेमिनार करें और कुछ एक ग्रुप्स जाके उन चीजों को करेक्ट करने का प्रयास करें जो लोकल रिसर्च है, और फिर अगर हम उसको इनकॉर्पोरेट करने का प्रयास करेंगे फॉर सेवा या सेवा इंटरनेशनल या इस तरह की जो भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है वो अगर इस तरह का प्रोग्राम करती हैं तो मुझे लगता है कि और इस तरह का चीज हम कच्छ में ही हम स्वयं कच्छ में मतलब जिन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ मैं काम कर रहा था कच्छ के रामपुर में अभ्यासा में इन जगहों पे हम ऑलरेडी कर चुके और उसके बहुत अच्छे प्रतिफल आ चुके हैं। तो हम इस क्षेत्र में भी उसको करने का प्रयास कर सकते हैं। निश्चित रूप से आपको
जी सुशील जी, चौपाल की पूरी अवधारणा शेयर्ड रिस्पांसिबिलिटी की है, को मॉडल है। सो आई एम श्योर यूथ फॉर सेवा और हम जितने संगठन यहाँ आए हैं इस चौपाल के पश्चात अपनी जिम्मेदारियों का अपने साथ मिलकर उन चीजों को करेंगे। I have a written question for Dev Kiran जी। ये प्रश्न हिंदी में है, so I'll try to translate it। शुभम शर्मा जी हमारे सेवा हाँ तो मैं हिंदी में ही बोलता हूँ। शुभम शर्मा हमारे फेलोशिप टीम से उनका प्रश्न है क्या वैश्विक नागरिक नहीं इनको हिंदी आती नहीं, इनका हिंदी बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है तो मैं हिंदी में बोलता हूँ। क्या वैश्विक नागरिक समाज संगठन आपदा प्रभावित समुदायों के बीच निर्भरता की संस्कृति में योगदान दे रहे हैं? So what he is trying to ask, we always see whenever some organization comes and pushes the grants, distributes something, does it create a sense of dependency? When the organization knows disasters हुए हैं तो वो तो सामान लेके आ रहे हैं, distribute करने आ रहे हैं। When we talk about community resilience, we talk about self-reliance. Does these organizations which were supposed to make them strong are making them weak? Is it counterproductive? That is the question.
I think a very important question because many a time we make beggars out of need, as I was saying. But we need to understand. I'll share one example. During COVID again, we were distributing some dry rations in Parayu and Araku districts of Andhra Pradesh Valley. We had like any other dry ration, we had put also dal, rice, and masala, oil, everything. And when we started distributing there, the tribal said we don't need all this. We need sugar, oil, and salt. और कुछ नहीं चाहिए. So this is a learning, and because the community there is resilient, so they will automatically look at what is required for me and what is not required. Many a time this happens, and we also see people who become dependent on receiving relief. Again, similar example, if Karnataka floods happened and we wanted to build houses for rehabilitation, we said you work for your own as a labor for your own work. Nobody was willing to do that. Same thing happened in Fini cyclone in Odisha. People have to be labor had to be bought from Andhra Pradesh because you are making habituated for them by giving so many things. But definitely, relief में वैसे, sorry, when it is relief, you can give something free. But when it is rehabilitation, they also should pitch in. Only then it becomes a proper, otherwise it doesn't. And ये बहुत सारे foreign funds ऐसे ही करते हैं. During tsunami also we used to get truckloads of material from every place, but it used to be stored and it was not required for us. This is a tricky thing. लेकिन इस चीज में ही civil society का role हो सकता है. See, while disaster, the government is doing its own homework, civil society should also do its homework. Because you know that in these areas, disaster is bound to happen. So what is the preparedness you have that makes a difference?
One last question. Ji, Devi Prasad ji.
I'm not into really what I understand. My first exposure to disaster was 1977. I had been we organized university. We reached from 7 days. By the time we reached, people who were there, they were not need of our equipment which are there. They wanted us to construct their houses, but we were not. It is disappointment for them. With that, having said that, that's the first experience. The second experience I had is 9/11. I was in my office. I could see from my window aircraft hitting Pentagon. Office were closed within half an hour on the streets. But every car was moving. People, whoever is walking, they were invited to the cars. Taxi wallahs are inviting people to sit. Traffic signals are on. Nobody was going on. That discipline and disciplined behavior during disaster is something that has to be inculcated as part of culture. So with that, I didn't see the report that has. I didn't see the report, but if countries experiences, how the local people cooperate and responded to supply side of disaster management. Good practices, good lessons, particularly for society. पहले कह रहे थे कि जापान में old people were volunteering to enter into the reactor first. That kind of thing from different countries, if they are available, and if this report can be summarized in 5-6 languages, Spanish, French, Arabic, and posted on the website, perhaps that will be good learning due to G20 international audience. This can be possible. And I was India as Bharatiya, then I was saying, what is the Indian word for disaster? And what is my debut? That is what I could think. Now, what is my feeling at the bhaya? These emotions of bhaya is what with the people when they face a deepest disaster. Now, how to guide those people in the immediate 24-hour scenarios has to be accepted as first response, for which we are not perhaps trained yet. Again, I give an example. In the year 2001, I was preparing for my boss, real boss, for his lecture at US Army College. In 2001, September 15th, he was giving lecture. I was his advisor. And by doing research, I found a very good example from American war manual. Listen, their objective is to position American forces anywhere on this earth within 14 minutes of the call. That is the objective.
Therefore, their budget, their HR, their policies, everything is tested against that objective before spending funds. Now, can Indian as enterprise about can we have a disaster response? We respond in 72, sorry, in 3 hours, 4 hours. We have responded sometimes very quickly. So that has to be a national objective. Whether the different societies where Seva is operated, how the local governments have supported civil society. And from that, which are the countries, other countries can learn. Suppose, for example, country A, they have coordinated very well with Seva because of their systemic arrangements. Country B, they could not receive cooperation quickly because of systemic reasons. What is that they can learn from each other? Whether that can be documented in this report on website in 2-3 different languages because they are linking with G20. So this is an occasion. I stop it here, sir. Thank you.
One actual last comment from someone who is working in Kerala. Balaji, you had a comment to share. You can come close to any mic. Anyways.
Very much. I'm Bharat. I was former convener of IIT Kerala. So I was working with closely with government authorities for last 3 years, starting from 2021, and I just shifted to Delhi NCR in 2021. I was closely working with district administration, especially in disaster management, climate action, and SDGs. So what I have seen is when I joined with district administration, it was Cyclone Oki. Kerala was facing Cyclone Oki. And government of Kerala was criticized a lot because of the disaster happened during that period, and fisher community was suffering a lot. And in 2018, it was Kerala flood, the biggest flood Kerala has ever faced. And 2019, it was again floods and landslides in the Wayanad and other districts and all. And in 2020, I was coordinating COVID-19 with the government of Kerala. So what I have seen was, each and every disaster, not much improvement is happening in the system. Like, every year we are conducting seminars and conferences and rebuilding. Many initiatives were taken up by the government, but at the end of the day, there is no continuity in the initiatives by the government authorities. That's what I have seen through my experience. And one more thing, now we are witnessing like Brahmapuram, waste plant is burning. So reports are saying that the force were not having enough accessories for tackling that kind of disease, especially the gas mask and all, not with the fire and safety team, the fire and rescue team. So that's what from the discussion I have learned government system is not getting equipped by the experiences they have received through years, or and the human resource of government is also not equipped to face a disaster. So how can we overcome this biggest challenge in terms of providing the accessories to the force disaster, and how to make a continuity or a sustainability for the initiatives once it is up, and when other government is coming and they are starting something else. And the continuity or sustainability is the major issue I have seen in the system throughout my experience. So that's what I would like to say. Yeah. 15th Finance Commission for the first time gave 20,000 crore disaster management. 20% was for disaster
mitigation efforts, which the state government is supposed to spend. That is required to cater for such emergencies. Second step is the government was, along with this, that the corporate CSR activities, they included disaster mitigation activities also as part of CSR, which means every industry in that area can equip themselves with disaster mitigation like issues. If there are gas producing, gas manufacturing or using gas or chemicals, so such type of antidotes, masks, protective equipment they can buy and keep. Third is there is a India Disaster Resource Network, IDRN. I had created that. During COVID, it was being screened for the PM every day, which gives details of each and every item which is available in the government. And now slowly, all the private and public industries are being encouraged to put their data in there. That is a very big resource. It will exactly give you where gas masks are available, where what protective equipment is available, and it is open to everyone. Anyone can see it. You cannot demand based on it, but you can tell the district collector to call for that. So that needs to be, that type of framework is already in place and it is being encouraged. So these three activities is what the government is doing. Now there are certain things which the local community has to do, the district magistrate has to do. In his area, if he has got a factory which is producing, using a lot of acids and various types of chemicals, which when if they leak out or fire happens, it will create a set of medical problems. It is his duty to have an on-site and an off-site emergency plan. And the whole hospitals around, everyone will be equipped. That industry has to be told to plan for so many things, because it will be their creation. So such type of activities are not taking place because of lack of awareness at the government officials level. They are themselves not aware. A district magistrate at a district level, he has to look after more than 4,000 orders. Total number of orders issued by various ministries and departments of the government of India, which are applicable for him to follow, is more than 4,000. So where will he prioritize? There, the role of CSOs is to go apprise them and try to channelize his thought. You also think about disaster management, and these are the activities you need to do, and we can help you do it. That is the approach we have to take. But the district magistrate has just a staff of 20, 25 or 30. In some good districts, they have 32, 34. They have to look after 4,000 plus orders they have to follow. Because if they don't follow, there is a court case. You will see the laboratory that he is facing. So his focus is more on what is going to affect him more today, not tomorrow. That is where leadership also matters, governance leadership matters, and the role of CSOs also matters.
Dhanyavad sir. So with this, we come to the conclusion of this panel discussion. Bharat ji, हमने हिमालय की बहुत बात की थी. We thought Kerala is missing, so it's good that you reached your point at last. It has been an extremely enriching discussion. We brought out a lot of points, which I'm sure Honorable Chair will share in his conclusive remarks. Beyond this panel, we have two esteemed keynote speakers. Professor Ram Kakali ji has already been introduced. We have another keynote speaker, Hiram Kulkarni ji, joining us from Finland, who is online right now. I'll quickly introduce Hiram ji, and before introducing, sorry, आपको काफी देर तक हमने wait करवाया. Hiram ji is Director for Strategy and Development at CC Finland. He has been living there for over 1.5 decades now. He has been instrumental in developing a lot of learning methodologies for his schools. He has trained over 12,000 teachers, educators, and students in learning strategies. He is a well-known public speaker and has worked in 12 plus countries on edutech-based programs. He has led leadership positions in various corporates across the globe. And more than this, if I may say, Hiram ji right now is the president of Seva International Europe. We touched upon the theme of this Chopal, which is global civil society. And Hiramji has been invited to touch upon how Seva Europe and the civil society there, specifically Indian diaspora, came together to manage and work on the crisis, which is continuing, but initial days of Ukraine crisis. So, Hiramji, over to you. I hope you can hear us. Please go ahead.
Yes, very much. I hope my audio is okay.
Audio is okay. I'll request Tech Team to increase the volume.
Okay. And can I request the moderator to share the screen options for me so that I can share some screen? But prior to that, first of all, thank you, Abhishek ji. It's a pleasure and it's great honor to present the work of Seva Europe at this important dais. So I congratulate first of all Seva International Bharat as well as all the dignitaries on behalf of the G20 and specifically this C20 initiative, which is really important for putting the India in the center of the world. I really congratulate everyone, and I take this opportunity to say my pranam and namaste to all the people who are available at this conference. And I would like to put this subject in a very crisp and simple words: the role of global civil society in the tackling the disaster at large. And I will take a couple of case studies which we have been working on, practical on the ground level, first at broad level in Ukraine. And second, I will just briefly touch through the Turkey, which is current earthquake that you might have already seen in the news. Still the things are at very early stage for Turkey. So there are many things that we need to unfold for that. So I will present it, and I will recommend you to please continue this topic of through Q&A if you have any questions. So the role of a civil society in general has been not on the boundaries, but in the center of the main. In fact, the civil society is normally the first responder, who are the locals over there. The governments, all other agencies will take their own time to come based on the urgency level, but the society immediately comes there. And this has been an example. And this is not only a local society, but also when there is a need, the society across the globe with the same diaspora work with the same zeal. This is an example for the our. A brief, everyone knows about Seva Europe or Seva International, and I will not take much time on that part, but just to give a brief area, we are mainly into the work of Seva Paramo Dharma concept, which is Seva as a concept where the selfless service is being rendered and creating the volunteering approach or mindset for an individual. This is the main concept of Seva International, and Seva Europe chapter is mainly working. We are an independent organization working in the midst of pandemic, wartime, and natural calamities. This is our brief area, and mainly we have the volunteers across pan-Europe. We have volunteers across all 15 countries of Europe mainland, and as well as we have our partner organization with whom we are working. And this particular work is specifically with the help of the Seva UK partner organization and Seva Europe and Seva USA. So I would like to get this part. I hope that recently, just last month, on 24th February, there has been some of the messages that world is completing 1 year of Ukraine crisis and war. I still remember 24th February 2022, early morning, this message or this news broke out. And we can see that the Ukraine has been surrounded by 4 important countries, 5 important local boundaries, mainly into the, on the top, there is a Belarus other than the Russia, but on the EU side, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, and Romania. And then you have a small country called Moldova over there. So for all these countries, the biggest challenge on 24th February was the evacuation of the students, not only of Indian origin, but from many other countries, including families. And the air traffic was blocked. There has been Operation Ganga, which is amazing work, which was done by Government of India. But the Operation Ganga, the role starts when the students are or the families are out of the border. There is a much important work, and which is more risky work happening within the Ukraine border. And this is I'm going to take place you through. These are the pictures from the day one of the war. The students are under the bunkers. They are in the city areas of the Kharkiv, in Sumy, in Kiev, and they need to have first some support that it's the first time everybody is experiencing a war, including us, those who are working in Seva Europe. So for us, it was really important that how to organize our own team and help in large part. So if you can see that the number of volunteers involved at the start on the 24th February itself, we kept on building. We created a form by which we can be able to try to get the sense. Our Karyakarta in Ukraine, they just first put a message on WhatsApp saying that, okay, if anyone needs help, we are here and we can organize. But to our surprise, that particular call got more than 3,000 calls in one day. We got more than 2,000 messages only for the helping from the students, only with that one WhatsApp call. Then we realized that, okay, it's not only WhatsApp is not required. We need to build a sustainable network. So we built a Google form through which we got more than 3,000 plus entries in a span of 4 days, and which we tried to create a strategy how we can be able to work on. And there we need the team of our volunteers, selfless volunteer, and then we start working on the helpline. There has been 3 major initiatives which has been done by the society and the volunteers at large. First one, we created a basic e-helpline 24/7, one-on-one connect with one volunteer talking to one student who is staying in the bunker or who needs help. So first of all, counseling, providing emotional support, and looking at the movement routes, because the routes by which he or she should move out of the bunkers and go to the nearest train station or organizes the buses, providing the food and shelter during that time. This all support was being coordinated by Seva Ukraine team in Ukraine, as well as Seva Europe team, along with Seva UK and Seva USA team. This is the first of called e-helpline. Now this e-helpline was a major work because 350 volunteers 24/7 available for solving the issues, trying to get the information on the ground. Second important part, we have something called as the border seva, which we did in the second part, where our volunteers were on the borders helping the embassies, not only Indian embassy, but also other embassies, where we work with the Nigerian embassy, we work with the Saudi Arabian embassy, as well as other embassies where they need support for students evacuation as well. And third important part, where our team in Seva Ukraine, they were helping the families to organize the food shelter locally in Ukraine. The biggest challenge was that you can see the Ukraine map altogether here. If you can see my screen clearly, you can see that on the Ukraine map here, this is the key, which is central part. We have created 16 areas of Ukraine which are the mostly affected, and how we can be able to create a movement. Mostly the eastern part was affected, and western part was less affected. So mainly this the Sunni in Kharkiv or in Kiev, in Poltava, in Dnipro, in Donetsk, these are the areas are the most affected one. So we created a network of our team where we can create a network where the communication can happen, because once the students start moving from one place to other, they need either a bus or train. But train was very occupied. It was traffic. So that's why we had to organize the buses. The most important part, there were 4 important borders where the exit can happen, and on the borders there was a heavy queue. So we have to find out where there is a least queue. So we first diverted to the Romanian border, then also to the Polish border, and then some borders onto the Hungary as well in Slovakia. So you can see that our team was getting updated on day-to-day basis, on minute by minute, so that once we understand which border is heavily occupied, we have to divert the part, and then we have to give this information to the central unit. From central unit, the message will go to all the volunteers who are talking with one-on-one on WhatsApp as well as on the phone calls with individual student groups. And please bear in mind, this is not only the case where the students need to get just instruction, because they have to organize themselves and come out of their bunker to see the part, see whether it's safe, and then they have to give feedback back to the central team. And this was all done by the volunteers as well as by the students, obviously with the help of local government, as well as we got a good support from the student associations locally as well. So we put ourselves into 5 stages. First, collecting the information, organizing the information, creation of the first move, getting a feedback, then creation of a guidebook, and then assisting at a large level. And for doing this part, starting from the age by age, city by city, step by step, and getting them to the border and getting them at the part where they can be able to organize themselves and be safe where the next plan happens. Now, other than this, this is a first requirement of the immediate evacuation. But then comes a longer work, which require providing essential medicine, help, food, where our team was traveling to the border areas, mainly to the Poland and mainly to the Romanian as well as in Hungary, where we were helping the local embassies as well as local organization, where we were providing the medical food and supplies. If you see that how it has been happening, the one-on-one connect of the individuals was creating a confidence. This is not only a confidence only for the Indians, but also we got a support, and we supported many other countries, including the Nigerian embassy in Ghana, in African countries, as well as Egypt. And then we started developing our network in this part. So once we can see that there is a much needed network and knowledge information happening at the grassroots level, but also which has been communicated with the network of the volunteers working online for the team. And then it takes the next level of work where we started working on the borders, and now our next level where we are working in Ukraine for last 1 year, and we are developing this overall part where we supported more than 35,000 stranded people, families, 12,000 students. We received more than 6,000 helpline requests. We had the volunteers. We are really proud that we had volunteers from 25 countries, including UK, USA, including all European countries, as well as we got amazing support from Seva International Bharat, as well as all the respective team members. So this is a kind of a work where we can be able to get it. You can see that one single line, a tweet from the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Security of Government of Nigeria, how it can be able to create a quick response of organizing more than buses for more than 400 Nigerian students from Sunni, which was a very affected part where the bombarding was happening, and we could be able to get them students out of the bombarding swiftly and to the border areas. So this is the overall part. But still, the things are not yet over. I think from the news, the war is out, but in the practice, things are still going on. We also got good references, as well as our work was getting recognized at the broad level, which was really good feedback from us for us. But the point is that, is war over? The answer is definitely no. Everyone knows that part. And what is the status now where we are still working? First, December was the hardest time for Ukraine. Where the temperature was freezing -5, -10 degrees. The electricity was not operational in most of the part of the Europe. So Seva team created a Seva Warmth for Ukraine project, through which we gave the basic important warm clothes, necessities, heating gases which can be used without electricity. And those has been given not only for the families, but also we mainly help the orphanage centers which was really needed over there. Our team was there. Now, as a part of next level, how we can organize this part, we are already working for the border Seva, which is Seva War Warmth. And then we have three important projects that what is happening. First is called one of the area where the Indian diaspora can help the Ukrainian refugees. There are more than 2 million refugees are plus minus here and there. They are in Europe. They are spread across various countries, including Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Germany, France. And now these refugees need support. So we are creating one simple yoga and meditation 10-session course, which we are going to offer with the help of our volunteers and our team, well-trained yoga instructors, those who can be able to help them to create a healthy mind, healthy body relationship, so that they can be able to, they will not feel the stigma of being a refugee, but they can be able to get a larger scope. Then the most important part, the youth who are coming, they are between the age of 14 to 18 or 18 plus, those who are just came out last year. Therefore, then various youth development program initiatives that we have started, and as well as skills and networking programs which is be started. This is our overall program, what we are working on, and this is obviously with the help of all local team members of Seva Ukraine team. This is a brief about what exactly can be the impact can be made at the grassroots level by a team, which is we are a fairly young organization as compared to the many of the other partner organization, but definitely we work with our many other points. Before we go to the next point or questions, here is a quick summary of what we are doing recently with the earthquake in Turkey and Syria. This is a very difficult thing for us also to digest as well as to work, because of the location as well as the kind of calamity which has been here. It's accessibility of the road is also part. So we started our work first with the help of the Food for Life ISKCON initiative. We started with work, and now we have our own team also working for distributing the food, morning breakfast, afternoon lunch, and evening dinner, a very simple meal, vegetarian meal, for all the people who are getting affected in that specific city where we are working. And that's what we are being able to serve at this point. But also in the future part, we are giving the medicines as well as supplies. And the most important part is a warm clothes as well as for the tents, what we are trying to organize in a part of this work. So this is the overall work, what has been happening as a part of part. Dhanyavad. Thank you very much. I hope that I didn't take much time. Namaste.
Dhanyavad, Ramji. It's really inspiring to see the work that Seva Europe has done both in Ukraine as well as Turkey and Syria. And I vividly remember when we met in Mumbai, how enthusiastically the Europe team has been planning things despite all the challenges. This is definitely a learning for all of us. Now I'll move to our next keynote speaker, Dr. Ram Kakani, who has already been introduced. Sir, you have heard the whole discussion for over an hour and a half. I remember last time when I heard you were presenting a keynote at our fellowship program in Mumbai. And I still remember a concept that you presented in terms of how the stages of a country's development from subsistence to sustainability, there were 4 or 5 steps. I sort of thought when you were a keynote speaker, I thought when we are discussing in terms of disaster, how this thing is evolving, how we see in terms of its levels with civil society. There is a striking resemblance to what you had shared some 7-8 months back. So we are all eager to hear your thoughts as the keynote speaker, Dr. Kakani.
I thank every one of you for giving me this opportunity. Shyamji, thank you so much. And it's such a apt topic, diaspora, disaster and development. And I'm also aware of the human service which Seva and the team have been doing, and of course the European presentation also presents it. So let me start by saying a few things which are there. I'll use a mix of Hindi and English also once in a while. सबसे पहले मैंने अगर disaster की बात करते हैं, you see how are let's say organizations managed, corporates or the private world. Typically they are managed when if there are no disasters, typically they are managed based on thumb rule of efficiency. Efficiency means output should be more than divided to input. Simply, it's like गाड़ी का mileage क्या है. We don't consider the safety of the vehicle also, and that is how let's say countries' decisions are taken. If you see many families are wired like that. Most of the time, corporate is also wired like that, and to a fair extent, even the district collector also in the government is wired like that because he said you reach the masses. So for him, it's like cost of delivery, he'll see and deliver. So efficiency is one criteria. What happens when let's say crisis strikes? It moves towards effectiveness. Effectiveness is essentially what is the goal and how do we meet things. And what happens when disasters strike or when disasters happen frequently, like what was mentioned in Odisha, Kerala, etc., wherein the disaster response ability especially is far superior, and there is you can say a lessons that they seem to have learned and they have imparted. So there you see that it is moving from efficiency to effectiveness to what I call as anthropocentric sustainability. That is wherein human beings are being taken care of and disaster to human beings is being mitigated. If we stretch this a little bit further, if disasters kaise kam ho, it possibly has to move from efficiency to effectiveness, effectiveness to anthropocentric sustainability, and from anthropocentric sustainability to all systems sustainability, which is where the climate cooperation and community kind of that aspect comes in play. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is disaster mitigation to be done well is about anthropocentric sustainability, which is what most of the UN and other, you could say, World Health Organization, etc., are fairly centric about. But we move a little further, it is essentially all system sustainability, and possibly the next stage is on those lines. Number one. Number two, if we observe the response for COVID from different countries, अगर आप देखेंगे different countries का response COVID के लिए, let's say for Hong Kong, for China, city-state, that is what I call a small city-state economies like Hong Kong, Singapore, or China, or let's say USA or India, you will observe that there is a difference that has been there in their response to disaster versus our response to disaster. In their response to disaster versus our response to disaster. Now, what happens is there are 5 values based on which policy decisions are taken. Typically, the literature says there are 5 values based on which decisions are taken, and depending on what is more priority. What are those 5 goals or 5 goals which are there? One is, let's say, what we call as equity perspective. Equity is uniformity in distribution. Another is efficiency perspective. Third is welfare perspective, wherein you take care of the needs of the people. Fourth is liberty perspective. And fifth is what we call as the security perspective. If you observe USA's response for COVID, it was largely driven by liberty perspective. उस देश का वायरिंग उसी तरह से है और इसीलिए लगभग आधा यूएस में जो है मेरे ख्याल में कोविड नॉर्म्स और मास्क वगैरह भी नहीं था. And forget about taking vaccination. And if you observe the response of, let's say, a state like China, it was driven by what I will call as, let's say, efficiency perspective. Since they did not want the economy to be hurt, etc. So the point is, relatively speaking, these were, in hindsight, one can say that they were more myopic in their decision making. If we observe the response of some of these city-state economies like Hong Kong or Singapore, it was probably more driven by what we call as, you can say, security perspective combined with efficiency. The summary is, as a nation, we as a country did extremely well, and of course, civil societies in India definitely contributed a lot, because in this country, it was largely speaking, the decision making was driven by welfare and equity perspective. So our response to COVID was far, far superior to the other countries. So what I'm trying to say is, in terms of the policy trade-offs of these 5 goals that are there, I think one more lesson which we can draw is possibly to see where is the welfare and equity perspective being built into disaster. So that's something compared to, let's say, efficiency or liberty. मुझे बाहर क्यों नहीं जाने दे रहे हैं, बस वहाँ पे रोक दिया गया है, तो someone will say that. So those implicit aspects, like which some of the illustrations, live illustrations were mentioned, I think can be captured. That was the second, you can say, part that is there. So, I agree, disaster has a very contagious effect. In other words, the reverse will be civil society's job of making it a very kind of doable or positive effect is something which I think that is the other side, the positive side of the contagious effect, I think is a huge takeaway. And in that sense, this is something which I would say has not been valorized. Not been valorized means log bolte nahi hai. But the fact is that role of the civil societies comes in that particular positive structuring of the whole disaster situation that is there. Then of course there are a few other things which are there, and one of the things which was very nicely mentioned by the panelists out there was essentially the role of higher education institutions is missing. It's a very valid point. Why will a student in an MBA program or any other program learn about disaster management? He'll say, "Yaar, itna boring subject hai, kahan se main jaake padunga?" And the point is, however, it is very important for a modern generation, which is possibly from a nuclear family with hardly 1 to 2 siblings in their family, or typically they have none in fact these days. I think to also understand what we call as managing failure. So in that sense, perhaps aspects of higher education institutes, possibly in undergrad year 1, they need to have certain way to capture disaster management or certain response out there. So the point is that's something which is there. There are, of course, higher education institutions contribution could be in multiple ways. One is by way of community engagement initiatives, like having workshops, presentations, experience sharing, social cohesion mechanisms, etc. Then higher education institutions could possibly support these things by having a research and scholarship for disaster management. For example, if let me put it this way: as a director of IIM Raipur, I'd be very happy if IIM is part of any kind of disaster management, you can say, program or course which can be created or which can be structured, or wherein coursework and other things. Given that India has already taken a lead, why can't we also find ways and means of documenting and possibly having? So that's something wherein which it benefits scholars, policymakers, and also practitioners. Because you see, these vivid live experiences, which some of my esteemed panel members mentioned, need to be captured. And that's something which wherein I think as in higher education institutions can contribute. The other part is I think higher education institutions contribution gets maximized if you make it compulsory as part of undergraduation year one, because it is implicitly going to promote these values of equity, welfare over liberty, security, or efficiency, which I just mentioned as a nation. So these are, I think, some thoughts that I am having. I know all of us are, you can say, patient out there, and I think I would not like to take much time out there. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Kakaniji, for summarizing the whole response to disasters and ideally focusing on the equity as well as the welfare part. Since we are running out of time, I would request our chair of the session, Major General Manoj Bindalji. So you have graciously compiled the whole thing. So we would look forward to your final and closing remarks for this discussion.
I will not read out whatever I think, but that's a long list. But something which have come out very clear, loud and clear. One is coordination with the government agencies. The first step towards encouraging the civil society organization. And that has to start at national level, state level, district level, and even at the PRI level. And that has to be, that is something which every civil society organization needs to work. Second point which came out very important was that it has to be communicated. The needs assessment has to be done, and the donor agenda has to be set accordingly. And it must complement what the government is doing, and it should fill the gaps in their implementation of policy planning. So for that, again, coordination with the government agencies is again the most important part. Relief versus restoration of livelihood was a point which was brought up by one of the participants, and it's a very important thing that what Seva International has done in Kutch, that they taught them, they restored the livelihood of embroidery and stitching, and today they are self-sustainable. So, in initial phases, we can only focus on relief, but the larger aim should be to restoration of their livelihood or business continuity, or creating an environment where they can sustain themselves. And right now, we at the director, I am talking about the 5 values, and we are very high up on that, on welfare, equity, which is also one of the part of our preamble and constitution also. And so that has guided us. Vasudev Kumbhakam is based on this particular principles only, that is welfare and equity for all. And I think that is the part that India has, that's why it's becoming a global leader. We're no more talking about a regional leader, we're talking about global leader. And the role of higher education institutions has not been tapped at all, I will say, because I've been into this for a long time. And there is a need to somehow start this curriculum, even though in the schools there is a start, there are chapters on disaster management up to primary level and then thereafter again, but not at college, even though UGC has given an indication that it should be a 2-credit or a 4-credit course, but the it will be implementable only once it is made compulsory as been initiated. That right now it's more of optional and choices left to the government institutions, and it is not applicable to the private institutions. So I think that is somewhere we can work upon and have it made mandatory for all to follow the curriculum made by NITM for graduate and postgraduate courses. I thank all the panelists for such a lively discussion, and I thank Seva International for bringing us all together. together to discuss such a lengthy issue. And I think it was a very fruitful and meaningful discussion we had. What someone spoke about capturing all this into a good documentation form is the need so that it can be percolated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for chairing the session. Dr. Kakani, Colonel Kokia, Kiranji, for sharing your thoughts. With this, the discussion is over. Now, invite Priyanka ji to take it back.
We are just heading towards the closing. I know everyone is stretched out. So we are taking that in mind. So we are closing the event, but before that, I invite Adanya Shamji and we have C20 Susheta Kiranji with us. We are handing over the flags, C20 flags to respective organizations over here. So we'll call out, my team members will call out the name of the organization. But before that, we also want to present mementos to the esteemed guests, to the esteemed panelists. Shamji. Manoj Pindaji. Kiranji. Colonel Kotwalji. Dr. Kakani. Shamji, the flag school. Yes.
मैं एक एक करके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का नाम बताती जाऊंगी और उनके जो भी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है वो आते जाएंगे और हमारे माननीय अतिथियों से फ्लैग रिसीव करते जाएंगे और चैलेंजेस ग्रुप और उनके रिप्रेजेंटेटिव। Thank you. ONGC
Foundation.
Yuva Foundation, Colonel Kotwalji. Climate Wood Foundation. सेवा भारती दिल्ली सुनील जी। सक्षम आइडिया, विष्णु जी स्थिति, अमेठी यूनिवर्सिटी, डॉक्टर रंजीत, यूथ फॉर सेवा, हिंदू है राजीव कुमार झा जी, केयर इंडिया, बीसीजी टीएफआई, सेव फाउंडेशन, जेएनयू मैम प्लीज, देवी प्रसाद जी, आरएसपी राष्ट्रीय सेवा भारती, डॉक्टर हर्षिता, अभी आ जाएगा ना, चेतना फाउंडेशन वाली जी,
प्लान आपके पास पहुंच गया है, अभी चल रहा है। मनोज जी, फ्लैग सबके पास पहुंच गया है। Why this flag? Shubham ji will help us to little understand why this flag.
C20 का फ्लैग है। This flag represents something. C20 hashtag is you are the light. आप एक रोशनी है। यहाँ जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस अलग-अलग फॉर्म्स में सिविल सोसाइटी को रिप्रेजेंट करती है। When it's academic organizations, it represents the role of academic institutions in the way society functions. When it is NGOs, it represents NGOs' role in society and nation building. When it represents individuals, it represents how individual itself represents the idea of being a civil society. The flag comes with a purpose. The purpose is that we are now all connected to the way India's presidency for G20 and C20 is being seen. It represents a purpose. The purpose is to be a light
as individuals, as organizations, as this community, for the world to see what next level of change will be. It comes with the promise that we'll contribute our bits to the way policy recommendations will be sent to the G20 nations. Post this meet would come a mail from all of us to all of you. The mail would contain a list of ideas on which we would ask all of you to share your policy inputs. The policy inputs would come from you as an individual, from you as an organization, or via events like this, which we encourage you all to organize in your respective capacities. It can be brainstorming meets, as we call it, Chopal. It can be wide range of discussions with a wide variety of stakeholders, as we call it, Samaj Shala. From internal meet of civil society like this, as Chopal, to meet of civil society with external stakeholders, called Samaj Shala. We encourage and request all of you to organize such events in your respective places, in your respective organizations, in your respective communities. The how of that can be discussed post this event. But the request comes with folded hands to all of you that we must take this idea of C20 to really become the voice of civil society. And for that, it has to become what our Prime Minister said as Jan Andolan. The Jan Andolan has to come from all of us. And with this flag, we request you all to organize more events and document those events as policy recommendations that will be passed on to the leadership of G20 nations when they come together in India in September. The time ahead in front of us is till June end, when we want to compile all learnings from all these events, discussions, brainstormings, and compile that in the months of July to pass it on to the leaders of the world, for them to see it and then come prepared when they come for the G20 meeting in September in India. This is our opportunity to convert and transfer our ideas from our work, from our civilization, to guide the world and be the light. Requesting you all to be the light. Thank you.
Last, I would request Janesh ji. He is Director National Programs at Seva International. He is going to close the event with his word of thanks to the audience.
Thank you, Priya. So I know that it's too late. We are running very late and we need to close this program. So I will keep my sentence very short. So today it was really a great moment for Seva International and all of us here. Curtain raising of two major events that we happened today. One is book release of our disaster management book. Second is our Chopal, the first program of C20, which happened in the presence of eminent personality, guests, and Seva International really fortunate with that. And thank you so much for your presence, your involvement, your input, suggestions. So, as we all know, Seva International, the face of Seva International is disaster management. We have done a lot of things, a lot of work in disaster management activity. The book which we have released today, it's not just a reference book, it's not just a theoretical aspect, it's not just an academic paper. It reflects the feelings, emotions, dedication, hard work of thousands of Seva Karyakartas across the globe. So we need to highlight that. We need to share our experience to the world. C20 is the real platform, the right platform for doing that. Definitely the discussion, the panel discussion which happened today, for me it was really informative, a lot of insights from that panel discussion we emerged through that discussion. Definitely it will be captured in our C20 document, and whatever inputs, whatever suggestions you are putting forward will be documented in that. As Shubhanji mentioned, this is a long process and we are not just closing here, we are just starting here. Following to this program, there are multiple events and multiple seminars we are going to plan in across the country, and we invite you all for that programs. The next program in Maharashtra, Kerala, and Northeast places we are planning. Might be not might be possible to attend all this program physically, but your emotional, your thought process really help us to develop this document and move forward. Today we were supposed to be, the program was supposed to be inaugurated by our Minister of State, Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, but unfortunately due to his tight schedule, he was not able to attend. But his blessings, his support is always with us. So in his absence, I would try to extend my thanks and gratitude to the minister for providing support to us. We have many more delegates, we have many more panelists who have given a lot of inputs. Major General Manoj Kundwalji, DM Kiranji, Ajay Kundwalji, Dr. Ram Kirkaniji, Sri Heramji is online join. Thank you so much for your time, your inputs, your suggestions, your guidance. And on behalf of Seva International, once again, I thank you all for coming to this program and supporting us. Shyamji, who is guiding us, I don't want to speak about Shyamji because everyone knows who is behind the Seva International, motivating all of us for this organizing this event and the Seva ecosystem. Thank you, Shyamji, for your guidance. Abhishek Ji, our executive director, who is leading, who is the mastermind of this program. Thank you, Abhishek Ji. So all these things happen is not in the one day or 2 days. Behind the curtain, there are a lot of people who are working for this program. Starting from the editing of the book, starting from the designing of the book, arranging the hall, arranging the participants. So there are a lot of people, and I'm very much proud to say that we have a great dedicated team with Seva International who is doing all this work behind the curtain. And I appreciate all of you, and thank you so much for your support and your dedicated for organizing this program. Last but not least, the participants and the stakeholders is joined today. You are the people who make it really meaningful. Unless your participation not there, we won't be able to do this event. And this is not just an event, this is a documentation process also. So your valuable suggestion, inputs, very, very meaningfully. And this really happened the success of this program. So thank you so much once again. Thank you so much for coming and being part of us, and we expect in future also your participation, your support and engagements. So thank you so much once again. Vande Mataram. Namaste.
Namavi Kamala Mamala श्यामलां सरलां सुस्मितां भूषितां धरणीं धरणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरम्। भारत माता की जय।
Okay.